The entire mating hall went silent when King Theron rose from his throne. Every other girl stood beneath elaborate braids, silver threads, and jeweled curls. I stood at the far end of the line with nothing covering my freshly shorn scalp. My stepmother had made certain no alpha would want me. But the Frost King ignored every beautiful woman in the room. He crossed the hall, stopped directly before me, and asked why my head was bare. I told him the truth. Then the most feared alpha in the territories made his choice. Chapter 1. The Ceremony of Shame. We are taught that beauty is armor, that if we are lovely enough, graceful enough, perfect enough, someone will choose us, protect us, love us. We paint our faces, we tighten our waists. We grow our hair long, because somewhere deep inside, we believe the fairy tale that beauty can protect us from cruelty. But when you stand before a mirror and watch pieces of your hair fall onto cold stone while your stepmother smiles behind you, you learn something much uglier. Beauty is not armor. It is a target. And sometimes, the people who should protect you are the ones holding the blade. My name is Vera. Once, I was beautiful. Not the kind of beauty that stopped conversations or started wars. Nothing that dramatic. But I had my mother's hair. It was thick, dark as midnight, and fell in heavy waves all the way to my waist. In our pack, hair mattered. It represented identity, health, femininity, and worth. During the mating ceremony, when unmated wolves were presented before visiting alphas seeking marriage alliances, a woman's hair was one of the first things they noticed. I was 18. This was supposed to be my year. Instead, the ceremony was one morning away, and my stepmother, Duchess Marin of the Shadow Pine Pack, had just guaranteed that I would enter it bald as a newborn pup. There, Marin said. She placed the shears on the table with such satisfaction that my stomach turned. Now you finally look the way you truly are, plain, forgettable, a perfect reflection of your value. I stared at the mirror. The girl looking back at me felt like a stranger. Her scalp was completely bare. Her eyes looked enormous now, set in a face suddenly made of sharp angles and exposed skin. My head felt cold, unprotected, as though Marin had peeled away something far deeper than hair. Behind me stood my stepsister, Celestine. Golden-haired, beautiful, perfect Celestine. She watched with what might have been pity, but she said nothing. She never did. The ceremony begins at dawn, Marin continued as she smoothed her immaculate silver-threaded hair. You will still attend, naturally. Your father insists, though I cannot imagine why. No alpha will look at you twice now. She leaned closer until I felt her warm breath against my bare scalp. And that, my dear, is exactly how it should be. Then she left. I remained in front of the mirror, shaking among the remains of the person I had been. I should have cried. A normal girl probably would have. She might have screamed. She might have collapsed. She might have run to her father and begged him to do something. But I had learned years earlier that tears were valuable currency, and Marin enjoyed collecting them far too much. So I did what I always did when reality became unbearable. I escaped into a story. Inside my mind, I became a queen who had shaved her head before declaring war. I became a warrior who needed no decoration because her blade spoke for her. I became a phoenix burning away everything beautiful so something stronger could rise from the ashes. Other girls wrapped themselves in silk. I wrapped myself in stories. And I survived. That is something no one tells you about survival. Most of the time, it is not brave. It is not beautiful. It is simply what you do because the alternative would mean allowing them to win. Some stubborn, wild part of you refuses to die. My father found me an hour later. I was still sitting before the same mirror. Lord Dominic Ashford had once been a good man. I remembered another version of him. A father who carried me on his shoulders. A father who called me his little moon because I had been born during a lunar eclipse. Then my mother died. Her death hollowed him out, and Marin slowly filled those empty places with poison until almost nothing remained of the man who had loved me. Vera, he said quietly. He would not look directly at me. I'm sorry about your hair. Are you? My voice sounded strangely flat. He shifted uncomfortably. Marin says it was an accident. She says you were using her shears without permission and what? I finally turned toward him. I cut off my own hair the night before the mating ceremony? His face tightened. Do you actually believe that, Father? Or is believing her simply easier? He flinched. Good. I wanted the words to hurt. Even if he felt only a fraction of what I felt, it was something. The ceremony will happen regardless, he said. His voice changed into the formal tone he always used when he wanted to be Lord Ashford instead of my father. You will wear the traditional white gown. You will stand with the other unmated females. He tried to smile. It died almost immediately. Who knows? Perhaps your uniqueness will interest someone. Uniqueness. The word tasted like ash. Is that what we're calling this? Vera. Then he left. Of course he did. Leaving me when I needed him had become his greatest talent. I did not sleep that night. I sat beside my window and watched the moon travel slowly across the sky. Within hours, I would stand in the grand hall beside more than 20 hopeful young women. They would all be beautiful, whole, worthy. And I would be the spectacle. The bald girl everyone whispered about. The girl they pitied before silently thanking the gods they were not me. The mating ceremony had very little to do with love. It was about alliances. Bloodlines, power. Alphas traveled from across the territories, searching for brides who could strengthen their packs, bear powerful pups, or create useful political connections. I offered none of those things. I was only the daughter of a minor lord without important pack ties. I had no wolf form. I was an omega who could not even shift. And now, I had no hair. I would be invisible tomorrow. Dismissed. The cautionary tale other girls remembered whenever they counted their blessings. But I would survive. I always survived. What I did not know was that survival was about to become much more complicated. Because while I sat beside that window grieving the girl I had been, the Alpha King of the Northern Territories was already riding toward Shadowpine with his entourage. King Theron. They called him the Frost King. The wolf who could not die. Everyone had heard the stories. He was enormous, merciless, ancient beyond comprehension. For more than 2 centuries, he had ruled the North without taking a mate. He trusted almost no one. Rebellions ended beneath his hands. Even powerful alphas became cautious when his name entered a conversation. People said he attended mating ceremonies only because politics required it. He never chose anyone. He arrived, reminded the lesser packs exactly who ruled them, and left. This ceremony would be different. He would look across the grand hall and see a bald omega standing near a column, desperately trying to vanish into herself. And he would choose me. Not because of some instant mystical mate bond. Not because of prophecy. Not because he discovered some hidden beauty everyone else had overlooked. When our eyes met, King Theron would see something most powerful men search for and almost never find. Someone with nothing left to lose. And people with nothing left to lose can become very dangerous. But I was getting ahead of myself. First, I had to survive the ceremony. First, I had to stand before hundreds of wolves and let them see exactly how completely I had been humiliated. First, I had to believe, even briefly, that I was more than everything Marin had done to me. The stories I had always used to survive were lies. Soon I would discover which lies were worth dying for, and which truths were worth living for. The grand hall of Shadowpine had never looked more beautiful, which meant it had never felt more like a torture chamber. Morning light streamed through stained glass windows, washing the room in amber and rose. The dark stone floors had been polished until they reflected the light like still water. Garlands of wolfsbane and silver lilies, the traditional flowers of a mating ceremony, hung from every arch. Their perfume sat heavily in the air. At the far end of the room stood the Alpha's dais, still empty as we waited for the visiting dignitaries who would soon sit there and judge us. Us, the unmated females, the merchandise. There were 23 of us arranged along the eastern wall according to family rank and political importance. I stood last. Naturally. The placement itself was another insult. I had been pushed so far from the center that a marble column nearly hid me. For once, I was grateful. Perhaps I could disappear into the stone. By the gods, someone whispered. Is that Vera Ashford? So much for disappearing. I kept my gaze forward, my back straight, my hands folded before me. The traditional white ceremony gown felt almost obscene against my naked scalp. Every other girl had spent hours preparing her hair. Some wore complicated braids threaded with silver. Others had long curls decorated with crystals. Several had elaborate arrangements that exposed graceful necks and jeweled ears. Their hair represented beauty, health, fertility, promise. I had bare skin, and the memory of what had been taken from me. What happened to her? Another voice murmured. I heard she has mange. No, I heard she tried to run away, and her stepmother punished her. Who would choose her now? She looks sick. Their whispers crawled over my skin like insects. Part of me wanted to turn around and scream the truth. I wanted everyone to know exactly what Marin had done. I wanted to watch her reputation crumble. But what would it accomplish? In our world, cruel stepmothers were hardly shocking. It was almost tradition, and girls who complained were usually called ungrateful. Celestine stood 12 places ahead of me. Her golden hair had been shaped into a complicated crown of braids. She looked like a princess from a children's story. Soft, beautiful, innocent. She had not spoken to me that morning. She had not even looked at me when the ceremony attendants arranged us. Coward. The thought came viciously. You're a coward, Celestine. And every time you remain silent, you help her. But even while thinking it, I knew the judgment was not entirely fair. Celestine was trapped too. Her cage was simply prettier than mine. Marin controlled our clothes, our friendships, our futures. Celestine had learned how to please the monster. I never had. Then the enormous oak doors groaned open. Every girl straightened. Conversation stopped. The visiting Alphas entered. Alpha Ronin of the East March Pack came first, a broad man with rust-colored hair and a laugh that could shake a room. His reputation was kind. Whoever caught his attention would probably be fortunate. Behind him came Alpha Sienna of Riverside, one of the rare female alphas ruling a territory. Her dark skin gleamed with ceremonial oils, and her eyes looked sharp enough to cut glass. More followed. Young, old, handsome, scarred. Each alpha climbed the dais and immediately began studying our line, evaluating, discarding, selecting. To them, this was business. We were political agreements wrapped in white silk. I recognized many of the men from my father's dinners. I had served them wine, listened while they boasted, made myself invisible the way noble daughters were expected to. They had never truly noticed me then. There was no reason they would notice me now. The hall was almost full when the temperature suddenly dropped. There was no gradual change. One moment the room carried the warmth of spring morning. The next, I could see my breath. Frost spread across the glass windows. The candles flickered, dimmed. Everyone felt it. The pressure in the air. The presence of something immense and predatory. Conversation died completely. Every wolf turned toward the doorway. King Theron entered my life like winter given human form. I had heard all the stories. We all had. The Frost King. The immortal Alpha. The wolf who could not die. 200 years old, perhaps more. More powerful than any Alpha alive. Brutal. Merciless. Alone by choice. None of those stories prepared me for seeing him. Theron was impossibly tall. He stood above even the largest alphas in the hall. His hair was black as raven wings, threaded with silver that caught the morning light like stars against ice. His face was made of hard angles and sharp lines. He was beautiful in the way a blade was beautiful. Clean, lethal, unforgiving. Black leather covered his body beneath heavy dark furs. He moved with the smooth control of a predator, and every instinct inside me whispered the same warning: danger. Then I saw his eyes, silver, pure molten silver, like moonlight reflected on frozen water. Those eyes looked ancient. They had watched kingdoms rise and vanish. They seemed emptied of warmth, hope, almost humanity itself. Dead eyes inside a living face. Theron crossed the room without greeting anyone. His dark fur cloak trailed behind him. 4 enormous guards followed, hands resting near their weapons as their eyes searched constantly for threats. He sat at the center of the dais with the effortless arrogance of a man who knew every person in the hall would die long before he did. Lord Caldrus, master of the ceremony, stepped forward. Only a slight tremor betrayed his nerves. Honored alphas, noble lords and ladies, today we gather to observe the sacred tradition of the mating ceremony. He gestured toward us. Before you stand the finest unmated females of Shadowpine Pack. Each is worthy of consideration. Each offers the promise of strong bloodlines and prosperous alliances. I almost laughed. Finest. Worthy. Promise. We surrounded cruelty with such beautiful words. The ceremony will proceed according to tradition, Lord Caldrus continued. Any alpha may approach a female who interests him. If multiple alphas select the same woman, her family will negotiate the terms. Any female who receives no offer will be presented again during next season's ceremony. A polite description for being publicly rejected again 6 months later. Lord Caldrus raised his hands. Alphas of the assembled packs, you may begin your selections. Controlled chaos immediately filled the room. Alpha Ronan stood first. His attention was fixed on Lissa, a beautiful beta, 3 places from Celestine. He approached her smiling and spoke in a low voice. Relief brightened her face. The first match had taken less than 30 seconds. Others followed. Alpha Sienna selected a fierce, copper-haired woman. A young Western alpha approached Celestine, and my stepsister performed shy interest with flawless grace. Within minutes, more than half the women had alphas standing before them. Families smiled. Negotiations began. I remained beside my column, untouched, exactly as expected. I told myself I did not care. I told myself I had known this would happen. I told myself escaping marriage to any of these men was its own victory. I told myself many things that morning. Then I felt it. That crawling awareness of being watched. The pressure against your skin when a predator has noticed you. I lifted my eyes and met the silver gaze of King Theron. He was staring directly at me, not beyond me, not through me, at me. The intensity weakened my knees. Nothing about his expression had changed. His face remained cold and unreadable, but his eyes were locked on mine with a focus that almost felt physical. I could not look away. I could not breathe properly. Around us, the ceremony continued. Families negotiated. Women smiled. Men chose. For me, the entire hall narrowed to 2 things: his silver eyes and my pounding heart. Theron stood. The room fell silent again. He descended from the dais with the same predatory control he had entered with. Everyone moved aside. He acknowledged none of them. His boots struck the polished stone as he crossed the hall. His gaze never left mine. He was coming toward me. No. Impossible. There had to be someone behind me. Someone I had failed to notice. Someone worth choosing. But King Theron stopped directly in front of me. Up close, he was even more frightening. Huge. Ancient. Almost inhuman despite wearing a man's body. Power rolled from him like heat from a forge. I smelled pine, ice, and something wild enough to make my stomach tighten with instinctive fear. You. His voice was deep and rough. What is your name? My mouth had gone completely dry. Vera. Vera Ashford, Your Majesty. He tilted his head as he examined me. His gaze moved over my bare scalp, my wide eyes, my trembling hands. I saw no disgust, no pity, only detached curiosity. Why is your head bare? The bluntness almost made me laugh. Almost. My stepmother cut my hair last night so no alpha would choose me. The truth escaped before I could reconsider it. I did not know why I told him. Perhaps lying felt useless beneath those ancient eyes. Perhaps I wanted Marin's cruelty exposed before the only man in the hall powerful enough to make it matter. Perhaps I had simply stopped caring about consequences. Honesty had become my final rebellion. Something shifted briefly in his expression. Not emotion exactly. Recognition. And yet you are standing here, he said quietly. You knew they would humiliate you. You knew people would stare and whisper, but you came. I wasn't given a choice. Everyone has a choice. His silver eyes held mine. You chose to survive. He studied me for another heartbeat. Interesting. The word hung between us like a knife. Then King Theron turned toward the hall. His voice carried into every corner. Cold. Absolute. I choose this one. Vera Ashford will return with me to Frostholm as my mate. For one impossible moment, there was no sound. Then the hall erupted. My father pushed forward, his face flushed with shock. Your Majesty, surely you cannot mean, she is barely ranked, she has no wolf, she is what I have chosen. Tyrion's voice softened. That made it more dangerous. Are you questioning my judgment, Lord Ashford? My father's face went white. No, Your Majesty, I only meant. Then the matter is finished. Theron looked at me. For the briefest instant, something almost resembling amusement touched his face. Gather your belongings, Vera Ashford. We leave within the hour. Then he walked away. His guards followed him, and I remained beneath the eyes of the entire hall, wearing a white gown with my bare scalp exposed. Some people stared in horror, some in shock, others with open jealousy. Celestine looked ready to faint. Marin looked ready to murder me. And I felt nothing. Absolutely nothing. The most dangerous alpha alive had just selected me. I was leaving everything I had ever known for a kingdom of ice, ruled by a man who had crushed rebellions with his bare hands and had not taken a mate in 2 centuries. I should have been terrified. Instead, one thought filled my mind. At least I would never have to see Marin's satisfied smile again. It was not much of a blessing, but I had survived on less. Chapter 2. The Cold Journey North. I had 1 hour to fit my entire life into a single trunk. Marin made sure I understood that when she stormed into my bedroom. Her face was twisted by such pure rage it was almost beautiful. You conniving little whore. She slammed the door behind her. What did you do? What did you say to him? I kept folding the few dresses I owned. My hands moved almost mechanically. I told him you cut my hair. Her palm struck my face. My head snapped sideways. Blood filled my mouth. You think you've won? She seized my arm, driving her fingernails into my skin. You think being chosen by that monster is some prize? He will use you and throw you away within a month. Everyone knows he destroys everything he touches. You'll be dead before winter. Her mouth twisted. And I'll still be here. Warm, comfortable, raising my daughter to be a proper lady. I pulled free. And for the first time in my life, I looked directly at Marin without fear. Maybe I will be dead before winter. My voice stayed quiet. But at least I'll die somewhere you aren't. The truth hung between us. Death in Frostholm seemed preferable to another lifetime beneath her control. I watched the realization reach her. For once, my lack of fear wounded Marin more deeply than terror ever had. Good. She left without another word. I continued packing. There was not much. Several simple dresses, mostly gray and brown. The few books I had saved from my mother. Fairy tales. Old folk stories with pages softened by years of reading. Then the little wooden horse my father had carved before I was born, back when he still remembered how to love. I wrapped it carefully in a shawl and placed it at the bottom of my trunk. Someone knocked softly. Hesitantly. "Come in, Celestine." My stepsister entered as though she were visiting someone dying. Her golden hair remained perfectly arranged, but her eyes were red. She had been crying. "I'm sorry." For once I believed she meant it. "About your hair, about everything, I should have said something. I should have stopped her." "Yes." I looked at her. "You should have." She flinched. Celestine and I had never truly been friends. We had existed beside one another in an uneasy balance, two prisoners inside the same cell pretending neither was trapped. Now even that fragile connection was ending. "He's going to kill you," Celestine whispered. "Everyone says King Theron doesn't take mates. He takes victims. They say his last wife disappeared, and no one ever found her body. They say many things." I shut the trunk harder than necessary. "Most are probably true. I'm still going." "You could refuse, claim illness, and then what?" I turned toward her. "I stay here? Wait until father sells me to someone else next season? Spend my life letting Marin destroy me one piece at a time while you watch?" I shook my head. "At least with King Theron, it might be quick." Celestine's face crumpled. "Don't say that." "Why? It's true." Her fear was genuine, and despite myself, I softened. "Maybe it won't be terrible. Maybe he only wants a political alliance. Maybe he'll put me in some tower where I can read books and never see him. Maybe you should stop lying to yourself." Her sudden anger startled me. "You're going to die, Vera, and you're behaving like it doesn't matter. Like you don't matter." The words struck harder than Marin's slap. "I matter." My voice became almost a whisper. "I just don't matter here. Maybe I never did." A heavy knock came before she could respond. One of Theron's guards stood outside. "Miss Ashford, it is time." Celestine seized my hand. She squeezed it once. Hard. Then fled. I watched her disappear. A girl who had lived in the same house for years but never completely shared my life. Something cracked inside my chest. Then I lifted my trunk and followed the guard downstairs. The grand hall had emptied quickly after Theron's announcement. No one wanted to linger after a decision like that. Only a few remained. My father looked sick. Lord Caldris hurried around managing arrangements. Theron's entourage prepared to leave. The king stood near the doors, speaking quietly to a sharp-faced woman with iron-gray hair and calculating eyes. He did not look at me when I entered. My father did. He intercepted me halfway across the hall. "Vera." His hand moved toward my arm, then stopped. "I need you to understand. This is an extraordinary honor for this family. King Theron's favor could elevate our position beyond anything I ever—" "Don't." The word came coldly. "Don't pretend this is about honor. You sold me to Marin's cruelty for years. Now you're selling me to a king. At least have the courage to admit what you are." His face drained of color. "I'm your father." "No." The calmness of my own voice surprised me. "You were my father." I adjusted my grip on the trunk. "Now you're only the man who stood there while they broke me." His lips parted. "Goodbye, Lord Ashford." I walked past before he could answer. I never learned whether those words pierced the armor of his excuses. Theron's advisor approached me. Her gray eyes traveled over me with the efficiency of someone inspecting livestock. "I am Lady Kira, Chief Counselor to His Majesty. During the journey, you will address the king as Your Majesty or Sire. You will not speak unless addressed. You will not attempt escape. You will not create unnecessary disruption. Is that understood?" "Yes, Lady Kira." "Good." She gestured. A guard took my trunk with one hand. Suddenly I had nothing left to carry. Nothing to occupy my fingers. I felt strangely exposed. Theron finished speaking with another advisor and turned. His silver gaze swept over me. Can you ride? Yes, Your Majesty. Then you ride. We do not use carriages in the north. He headed toward the doors. Keep up or be left behind. That was all. No ceremony. No emotional goodbye. No moment to understand what had happened. I followed him into the courtyard. 24 horses waited there, their breath steaming in the cold morning air. Theron's mount was an enormous black stallion with smoky eyes. Mine was a smaller gray mare held by one of his soldiers. I climbed into the saddle without assistance. I had learned as a child, before my mother died and everything in our home turned to ash. The guard lifted one eyebrow, mildly impressed, and gave me the reins. Theron mounted with effortless grace. The company turned north as one. No one waved goodbye. No one called after me. I glanced back once. Shadow Pine Keep rose dark against the morning sky. I felt no sadness, only the hollow emptiness where the word home should have lived. Then we rode away. The journey north was brutal. We traveled for hours without stopping. The gentle hills surrounding Shadow Pine gave way slowly to harsher terrain. Theron maintained a punishing pace. I quickly understood that his warning had not been ceremonial. Anyone who failed to keep up really would be left behind. So I kept up. My thighs burned. My back ached. The cold attacked my bare head despite the leather cap one of the guards grudgingly gave me. But I kept riding. There was no acceptable alternative. No one spoke to me. The king's soldiers surrounded him in formation, constantly scanning the landscape. Lady Kira rode beside Theron, and occasionally leaned closer to say something that made him nod or frown. I stayed toward the rear. Another piece of cargo traveling north. We stopped once beside a stream to water the horses. When I dismounted, my legs trembled violently. I had ridden often, never at this pace, never for this long. Lady Kira appeared beside me with a water skin and dried meat. Eat. She pushed both toward me. You are useless to everyone if you collapse. I was too tired to resent her tone. The water tasted wonderfully cold. The meat was tough but edible. I chewed while watching Theron across the clearing. He stood alone. He always seemed to stand alone. One hand rested against his stallion's neck while his silver eyes watched the northern horizon. Even while motionless, tension lived inside him. Coiled violence. A weapon waiting for a reason to be used. Why did he choose me? The question escaped before I could stop it. Lady Kira's gaze sharpened. That is not your concern. I'm the woman he chose. It seems very much my concern. For a moment I expected silence. Instead, she sighed. Her expression softened by the smallest degree. King Theron does nothing without purpose. If he selected you, he had a reason. She shrugged. Whether his reason is good for you is another matter. Time will answer that. It was possibly the least comforting answer anyone had ever given me. We mounted again. By sunset, staying upright required nearly everything I had. Blisters covered my hands. My legs had gone numb. My head throbbed from exhaustion and dehydration. The previous 24 hours pressed against my mind like physical weight. When Theron finally raised a hand and stopped the group, I almost cried from relief. We had reached a clearing beside another stream, sheltered by tall pine trees. The guards began building camp with military efficiency. Tents rose. Fires appeared. A perimeter was established. I slid from my saddle. My knees buckled. A hand closed around my elbow before I hit the ground. I looked up. Theron. In the fading light, the hard lines of his face softened slightly. Almost human. Almost. His grip was firm, not cruel. You kept up. I could not tell whether he sounded surprised or approving. You told me to keep up or be left behind. I forced myself upright. I'm not very good at being left behind. Something moved behind those silver eyes. No. His voice dropped. I don't imagine you are. Then he released me and walked away. I remained there, exhausted, confused, and completely outside anything familiar. A guard led me to a small tent containing a bedroll and lantern. He muttered that dinner would be ready soon. I collapsed onto the bedding. My body hurt everywhere. My mind refused to quiet. What was I doing here? What had I agreed to? Why had he chosen me? The questions circled endlessly. Yet beneath the fear, something else had begun to wake. Curiosity. King Theron was a contradiction. Terrifying, but not needlessly cruel. Powerful, yet never boastful. A mystery walking in human form. He had selected me for a reason, and however badly I suspected all of this might end, I wanted to discover that reason. I wanted to understand the monster who had looked at a bald, broken Omega and decided she was worth taking north. Even if understanding him eventually killed me, which, given the stories, seemed entirely possible. Still, curiosity had helped keep me alive before. I had always searched for stories inside darkness. I had always asked questions even when the answers might hurt. I would not stop now. Outside, guards talked quietly. Someone laughed. Another soldier cursed the cold. Normal sounds. Human sounds. Underneath them all, I sensed that same strange pressure. The presence of a predator nearby. Theron's ancient power seemed to radiate through the camp like heat hidden beneath ashes. Tomorrow we would ride again. Tomorrow Frostholm would be closer. Whatever future waited there would be closer too. But tonight, I was alive. Exhausted. Confused. Possibly doomed. Still alive. It was more than I had expected. I closed my eyes and let exhaustion take me. My dreams filled with frozen kingdoms, impossible questions, and silver eyes. Chapter 3. The Castle of Ice and Secrets. We reached Frostholm on the 5th day. I had once believed Shadowpine was cold. I had been wrong. The north possessed another kind of cold entirely. It entered your bones and settled there. Your breath crystallized in front of your lips. If you blinked too slowly, frost collected on your eyelashes. Over the journey, forests became tundra. Green disappeared beneath endless white. Then something rose from the frozen landscape. A crown of jagged stone and ice. Frostholm Castle. It was not beautiful. Beauty suggested softness, warmth, something intended to please. Frostholm was magnificent, the way a glacier was magnificent. Vast. Ancient. Completely indifferent to whether you survived it. Its pale walls shone like pearl beneath weak sunlight. Towers climbed into low clouds. Every line was sharp. Defensive. The fortress looked built by someone who expected enemies and wanted them to understand they would die attempting entry. Impressive, isn't it? Lady Kira rode beside me. King Theron's ancestors built it 4 centuries ago. It has never fallen. It looks as though it doesn't want visitors. It doesn't. She glanced sideways. Neither does its king. Then her expression hardened. I hope you understand what you've entered, girl. I didn't enter anything voluntarily. I was chosen. A difference without much meaning. She urged her horse ahead. Either way, you are here. Try to survive it. Massive iron gates opened with a groan. We rode into a courtyard large enough to hold a small army. Our horses' hooves echoed against stone. Guards watched from walls with disciplined precision. This was not a home. It was a military camp surrounded by stone. Theron dismounted immediately and began issuing orders. Aside from catching me when I nearly collapsed on our first night, he had barely spoken to me during the journey. For 5 days, I had become another piece of baggage traveling behind his army. Now, watching him command his people inside that frozen fortress, the reality of my situation finally crashed over me. I was in another kingdom. Every warrior around me belonged to him. None owed loyalty to me. I had no allies, no influence, no resources, no path home, even if I wanted one. And the man who had brought me here regarded me with approximately the same warmth as the tundra outside his walls. A younger guard with kind eyes approached my horse. "Miss Ashford, I'm Garrett. I'll show you to your rooms." "Thank you." I climbed down and followed him. The castle interior seemed even colder. Stone and iron dominated everything. Very little decoration softened the corridors. Torches burned along the walls, but their flames barely affected the temperature. Our footsteps echoed. "Is it always this cold?" I tightened my cloak. Garrett gave me a sympathetic look. "You get used to it." He considered. "Eventually." Then, less confidently, "Mostly." We climbed what felt like endless stairs and crossed enough corridors that I quickly became lost. Eventually, Garrett stopped before a heavy wooden door. "Your chambers." He opened it. "Lady Kira will visit later to discuss expectations. His Majesty's chambers are in the North Tower." He paused deliberately. "Very far from here." I understood. Whatever Theron intended for me, he did not intend intimacy. "Thank you, Garrett." He hesitated. "Miss Ashford, Vera, if I may." I nodded. "Be careful." His expression became serious. "King Theron is not like other men. He has been alone so long that I think he's forgotten how to be anything else. Don't expect warmth. Don't expect kindness." Garrett exhaled. "Don't expect anything. You may survive more easily that way." Before I could answer, he left. His footsteps faded. I turned toward my new prison. The chambers were enormous compared with my room at Shadowpine. A 4-poster bed stood against one wall under layers of thick furs. An unlit fireplace filled another. 2 narrow, tall windows overlooked the frozen wilderness. There was a writing desk, a wardrobe, another door presumably leading to a bathing room. It was luxurious. It felt like a tomb. I walked to the window and placed my hand against the freezing glass. White stretched endlessly beyond it. Snow, ice, occasional dark shapes that might have been trees or rocks. Or frozen bodies, for all I knew. Perhaps this was my life now. Beautiful, cold, terrible. A knock interrupted me. "Enter." I expected a servant. Or Lady Kira. King Theron walked inside. I turned so quickly my heart seemed to leap into my throat. Without his traveling furs, he somehow appeared even more intimidating. He wore simple black clothing. His size filled the room. Silver eyes scanned the chamber before settling on me. "Adequate?" "More than adequate, Your Majesty. Thank you." He made a low sound of acknowledgement. Then he simply watched me. The same detached curiosity from the mating ceremony returned, as if I were a puzzle he had not solved. The silence became unbearable. "Why did you choose me?" The question escaped suddenly. "At the ceremony." "Why me?" His face remained still. "You want the truth?" "Yes." "Because you had nothing to lose." He said it like an observation about the weather. Every other woman in that hall wanted something. Position, safety, a favorable marriage. His head tilted. "You were the only one who looked as though survival itself was the only victory you cared about. I suppose you respect survival. I respect people who understand its price." He walked toward the fireplace and began building a fire himself. Most people believe survival means continuing to breathe. They think if the heart is beating, you've succeeded. Flame caught. Warm light spread across the chamber. "But you understand better." He stood. "Sometimes, survival means cutting away everything beautiful about yourself. Sometimes, it means becoming something you hate. Sometimes it means standing inside a room filled with people who despise you and refusing to disappear." He looked directly at me. "I chose you because you're already broken." The statement was almost casual. My breath caught. "Which means I cannot break you much further." His eyes narrowed slightly. "And you survived your stepmother. That tells me you're stronger than you appear." He faced me completely. I need someone strong, Vera Ashford. Someone who will not shatter the first time I show her what I truly am. My mouth became dry. And what are you, Your Majesty? Something dark passed through his expression. Ancient. Sad. A monster. His voice was almost quiet. One that learned how to wear a crown. He headed toward the door. Dinner is at sunset. Someone will collect you. Do not wander through the castle alone. Some areas are dangerous, and getting lost here is easy. His gaze returned once. Rest. You're exhausted. Then he left. The door closed softly. I remained beside the newly lit fire with even more questions than before. I did not rest. Instead, I searched every part of the chambers. I opened drawers. Examined corners. Tried to understand the place that supposedly belonged to me now. The wardrobe surprised me. Dresses already hung inside. Dark colors. Practical cuts. All approximately my size. Someone had prepared for me. The bathing room contained a large copper tub. And a mirror. I avoided the mirror. By the time a servant arrived for dinner, I had changed into a warm, well-made dark blue dress. Making myself presentable without hair required little effort. I washed my face and tried not to think about how exposed my scalp still made me feel. The servant was middle-aged, with tired eyes and gray threaded through her hair. She led me through several corridors and down more stairs. Eventually, we reached a dining hall large enough for 50 guests. Only one person waited there. Theron sat at the head of the table. Candlelight threw shadows over the severe lines of his face. He looked up. Vera. He indicated the chair at his right side. Not opposite him. Beside him. Close. Sit. I obeyed. His physical presence was impossible to ignore. Servants brought roasted meat, root vegetables, and dark bread. Simple food. Plentiful. Well prepared. I ate because I was starving, not because I noticed the taste. You will dine with me every evening, Theron said. It is expected. Expected by whom? Everyone. He cut his meat with precise movements. You are here as my selected mate. We must present the appropriate image. What image? We barely know each other. We know enough. He never looked up. You know I am dangerous. I know you are resilient. Many marriages begin with less. I stared at him. This is actually a marriage? Eventually, there will be a ceremony after the moon turns. And until then, I'm what? He paused. A guest. A prisoner? One corner of his mouth moved. Use whichever word you prefer. I put down my fork. Your Majesty, I need to know what you want. You brought me into a frozen castle, gave me expensive rooms, fed me, and now you're discussing marriage. But you've also called yourself a monster, and told me you chose me because I'm already broken. I turned toward him fully. What do you actually want from me? For a long moment he studied me. I want you to answer a riddle. I blinked. A riddle? Yes. He leaned backward. If you answer it correctly, I will tell you the truth about why you are here. And if I'm wrong, we try again tomorrow. He shrugged. And the next night, as many times as necessary. Everything about this was absurd. Yet something in Theron's expression told me the riddle mattered. Fine, ask me. Silver flashed in his eyes. His voice softened. I am given, but never taken. I can be broken, but never mended. I bind more tightly than chains, yet I weigh nothing. To some, I am more valuable than gold. To others, I am worth less than dirt. He held my gaze. What am I? My mind immediately searched for possibilities. A vow? No. Vows could be taken. Trust? Perhaps. But trust could sometimes be rebuilt. Love? Too obvious. Can I think about it? Until tomorrow night. He returned to eating. We'll dine again. You can answer then. The rest of dinner passed mostly in silence. He asked simple questions. How had I endured the journey? Were the chambers comfortable? Was I adjusting to the northern cold? I answered cautiously, still trying to understand the man who had chosen me for reasons that seemed increasingly complicated. At the end of the meal, Theron stood. Garrett will escort you back. Sleep well, Vera. Your Majesty? He stopped. May I ask something? You may ask. I may not answer. Do you actually want me here? I forced myself to continue. Or am I only another political requirement? He stared at me for several seconds. I don't do anything I don't want to do. Then his voice dropped. Remember that. He left. Garrett eventually arrived to escort me back through the freezing corridors. All the way to my room, the riddle repeated inside my head. Given, never taken. Broken, never mended. Weightless, yet stronger than chains. Precious to some, worthless to others. What could bind people like that? Why did Theron care whether I understood it? I fell asleep thinking about riddles, frozen kingdoms, silver eyes, and promises that could not be repaired once broken. Chapter 3. The Castle of Ice and Secrets. We reached Frostholm on the 5th day. I had thought Shadowpine was cold. I had been wrong. The north possessed a cold that settled inside bone. Breath became crystals. Eyelashes collected frost if you blinked too slowly. During the journey, the landscape had changed little by little. Forest became tundra. Green faded beneath endless white. And then Frostholm Castle appeared above the frozen wilderness like a crown made from jagged ice. It was not beautiful. Beauty suggested warmth and softness. Frostholm was magnificent instead, like a glacier, vast, ancient, indifferent to the life or death of anyone looking at it. Pale stone walls caught the weak sunlight. High towers vanished inside gray clouds. Every angle looked designed for defense. This was a fortress built by people who expected attack and wanted their enemies to know they would die trying. Impressive, isn't it? Lady Kira rode alongside me. King Theron's ancestors built Frostholm 4 centuries ago. No enemy has ever taken it. It doesn't look as though it wants guests. It doesn't. Her gaze shifted toward me. Neither does the king. Then she added, I hope you know what you have walked into. I didn't walk into anything. He chose me. A distinction with very little difference. She urged her horse ahead. Either way, you're here. Survive it if you can. The enormous iron gates opened. We entered a huge courtyard surrounded by armed guards. Horse hooves struck stone. Men watched us with military discipline. Nothing about the place felt domestic. Frostholm was a war camp disguised as a castle. Theron dismounted and immediately began issuing orders. He still had barely spoken to me since our first evening on the road. For 5 days, I had existed inside his entourage like baggage. Now, as I watched him command soldiers in the courtyard, the full reality of my position landed again. I stood in a foreign kingdom. No one here was loyal to me. I had no friends, no resources, no road home, and the man who had brought me looked colder than the tundra surrounding his fortress. A young guard approached. His eyes were kinder than most. Miss Ashford, I'm Garrett. I'll take you to your chambers. Thank you. I climbed down and followed him inside. The castle was almost as cold within as outside. Stone, iron, bare walls. Torches burned in sconces without offering much heat. Every footstep echoed. Is it always like this? I pulled my cloak tighter. You get used to it eventually. Garrett paused. Mostly. His expression suggested otherwise. We climbed stairs and crossed corridor after corridor, until I no longer knew which direction we faced. At last, Garrett opened a heavy wooden door. Your chambers. Lady Kira will speak with you later about expectations. Then he added, His Majesty's rooms are in the North Tower. His pause was meaningful. Far from here. I understood. Theron did not expect proximity. Thank you, Garrett. He hesitated. Vera, if I may, be careful. King Theron is not like other men. Garrett lowered his voice. He's been alone so long that he has forgotten how to be anything else. Don't expect warmth. Don't expect kindness. Expect nothing, and perhaps you won't be disappointed. Then he left. I examined my new prison. The chamber was larger than my entire bedroom at Shadowpine. A huge 4-poster bed covered with thick furs stood against one wall. An empty fireplace occupied another. Tall, narrow windows looked over the snow. There was a wardrobe, writing desk, bathing room. Luxury surrounded me, yet the place felt like a tomb. I touched the icy window. Outside was nothing but white. Snow and ice extended toward the horizon, interrupted by occasional dark shapes. Trees, perhaps. Rocks. For all I knew, corpses. This might be the rest of my life. Cold. Magnificent. Terrible. Someone knocked. Enter. I expected Lady Kira. Instead, Theron came inside. I turned sharply. Inside the smaller room, he seemed even larger. Without his furs, dressed entirely in black, he somehow looked more dangerous. His eyes inspected the chamber. Adequate? More than adequate, Your Majesty. He made a quiet sound, then watched me. The silence stretched. Why me? I could not hold the question any longer. Why did you choose me at the ceremony? You want the truth? Yes, because you had nothing to lose. There was no emotion in his voice. Every woman in that room wanted something: security, rank, a favorable match. You appeared to care about one thing: survival. Exactly. His head tilted. I respect people who know what survival costs. He walked to the fireplace and began arranging wood. Most believe surviving means breathing another day. You know better. The fire caught. You know, sometimes survival requires destroying pieces of yourself. Sometimes you become something you hate. Sometimes everyone in a room despises you, and you remain standing anyway. He brushed his hands together. I chose you because you are already broken. I cannot break you much further. The statement should have insulted me. Instead, his next words held me still. You survived your stepmother. That makes you stronger than you look. Silver eyes fixed on mine. I need someone strong, Vera. Someone who won't shatter when I show her what I truly am. What are you? The question came softly. Your Majesty? A shadow moved across his face. A monster. Then, quieter, one who has learned to wear a crown. He headed for the doorway. Dinner is at sunset. Do not wander alone. Parts of Frostholm are dangerous. He looked back once. Rest. Then he disappeared. I explored instead. The wardrobe contained clothing prepared in my size. The bathing chamber held a copper tub. There was a mirror I refused to use. When a servant came for me later, I had changed into a warm, dark blue gown and washed my face. Without hair, there was little else to arrange. The servant brought me through the maze of Frostholm to a dining hall built for 50 people. Only Theron waited. He indicated the place beside him. Sit. I obeyed. Food arrived. Roasted meat, vegetables, bread. You will dine beside me each evening, he said. People expect it from my chosen mate. We hardly know each other. We know enough. You know I'm dangerous. I know you're resilient. He continued cutting his food. That is more than many marriages begin with. Marriage? When the moon turns, there will be a ceremony. And until then, a guest, a prisoner. A tiny movement touched his mouth. If you prefer. I put my fork aside. What do you actually want from me? He studied me. An answer. To what? A riddle. He explained the bargain. If I solved it, he would tell me the true reason for bringing me north. If I failed, I could try again. Then he asked it. I am given, but never taken. I can be broken, but never mended. I bind more tightly than chains, and weigh nothing. I am more precious than gold to some, and worthless as dirt to others. His silver gaze held mine. What am I? I considered vow, trust, love, nothing fit completely. I need time. You have until tomorrow night. We finished dinner. When he rose to leave, I stopped him. Do you truly want me here? His answer came after a long silence. I do not do anything I don't want. Then he disappeared. Garrett escorted me to my rooms. I lay awake turning the question over and over. What could be given freely but not taken? Destroyed but never truly repaired? What could hold two people together more powerfully than chains? And why did a king who could have demanded anything care so much about my answer? I finally slept. My dreams carried silver eyes, frozen kingdoms, and words that could never be taken back. Chapter 4. Conversations in the Dark. The following day passed almost entirely in solitude. A silent servant brought porridge with honey and dried fruit. Later she collected the empty dishes. No one summoned me. No one visited. No one asked what I wanted. At first, I welcomed it. After 5 brutal days on horseback, being alone felt luxurious. I slept late, soaked in hot water until my skin turned pink, explored every part of my chambers. By afternoon, however, the silence became oppressive. At Shadowpine, I had spent years searching for corners where I could disappear. But this was different. This felt less like hiding and more like being erased. Frostholm was huge. Far beyond my rooms, I heard evidence of life. Voices. Footsteps. Closing doors. None of it included me. I was a ghost living inside someone else's castle. And constantly, the riddle followed me. Given but never taken. Broken but never mended. Stronger than chains. Weightless. I paced while whispering answers. A heart? No. Hearts healed. Faith? Closer. But faith could be stolen or destroyed. Hope? Possible. But Theron did not seem like someone interested in vague concepts. By sunset, I had nearly driven myself mad. Garrett arrived just as daylight faded. Any progress? I stared at him. You know about the riddle? Everyone knows. His Majesty asks it of every guest. He emphasized guest carefully. It's tradition. Has anyone solved it? Garrett said nothing. That answered me. Theron was waiting when we reached dinner. Tonight, however, he looked different. Tired. The lines beside his eyes seemed deeper. Weight rested visibly across his shoulders. Vera, he indicated my usual seat. I trust your day was comfortable. I spent it alone. I sat beside him. Is that supposed to be comfortable, or simply convenient for you? His lips almost smiled. Direct. I appreciate that. Theron poured wine into my glass himself. It felt strangely intimate. You've been alone because I have not decided what to do with you. I'm not an object. No. He considered. You're a problem. Servants brought dinner. We ate quietly for several minutes. Then he asked, Have you thought about my riddle? Almost constantly. I set down my fork. But I need information. Is the answer physical or abstract? Abstract. Does everyone possess it? That depends on the person. His gaze sharpened. Some possess it in abundance, others possess none. I thought harder. If it's broken, can it ever be restored? No. His reply came instantly. Once destroyed, the original is gone. Something new might be built in its place, but it would never be the same thing. Trust. Innocence. Faith. Then it came to me. A promise. Theron froze. His hand stopped halfway toward his wine. Silver eyes flared with something I could not name. Explain. A promise has to be given. You can't force someone to give it. I spoke carefully. And once you break a promise, you cannot truly repair that original promise. You can apologize, make another, but the first is still broken. He listened without moving. A promise can bind people more tightly than physical chains, because it depends on trust and choice. And to people who value their word, a promise is priceless. I held his eyes. To liars who never intend to keep one, it means nothing. Silence. Did I get it right? Theron leaned slowly backward. Something almost like respect entered his face. Yes. You answered correctly. I waited. He said nothing more. You promised to tell me the truth. His expression changed. Why am I actually here? Theron stood suddenly. His chair scraped the floor. For one moment I thought he intended to leave and break his own bargain. Instead, he walked to the window. His back remained toward me. I am cursed. His voice was low. I have been for nearly 2 centuries. Whatever answer I had expected, that was not it. Cursed how? I cannot die. He said the words with no drama at all. I've tried. He finally turned. Blade, fire, poison, nothing works. I heal from everything. I stopped aging at 35. His eyes looked impossibly tired. I have remained 35 for 200 years. You're immortal. I'm trapped. The emotion beneath the correction was raw. Everyone I've ever cared for grows old and dies. My wife, my children, friends, advisors, soldiers, servants. His jaw hardened. Eventually everyone leaves, and I remain. The pain in his voice pulled me to my feet without thought. The curse came from a witch I wronged when I was young. Theron continued. She was precise. I would live forever and live alone unless someone could love both sides of me. The king and the beast. His jaw tightened. Every night when the moon rises, I transform. Into your wolf? No. His voice became harsher. Our people can become wolves. This is something else, a punishment. He looked away. I become a creature that is more animal than man, violent, dangerous. Understanding came. That's why your rooms are so far away. Yes. And why you disappear at night. Yes. I'm not safe after moonrise. I struggled to understand everything. And you believe I might break the curse? I don't believe anything anymore. A bitter laugh escaped him. 200 years cured me of that. He looked toward the dark window. Women have come and gone. Some loved the king, the crown, the authority, the status. His face hardened. Others loved the idea of the beast, the danger, the fantasy of taming something savage. He shook his head. Never both. And you chose me because of the riddle. Yes. Theron stepped closer. I have asked that question hundreds of times, perhaps thousands. People guess pretty words, concepts, things they think I want to hear. His silver eyes fixed on me. You understood the thing beneath the words. A promise. A promise. He nodded. The witch cursed me to live without one. Love cannot be promised into existence. It must be freely given. He hesitated. But someone who understands what a promise means. Someone who respects its weight. His voice faded. That person might be capable of seeing whatever remains beneath my curse. The implication nearly drowned me. Theron had not chosen me for my appearance. Not for family. Not for power. He believed I understood loyalty, commitment, truth. He had no idea how wrong he might be. My entire life had been shaped by broken promises. My father's promise to protect me. Marin's claims that she would treat us equally. Every promise I had trusted had shattered. I survived by learning not to believe any of them. But I could not tell him that while hope flickered so faintly inside those ancient eyes. I don't know if I can help you. I forced myself to be honest. I might not be who you think I am. I don't expect you to love me. His voice dropped. I don't expect you to end the curse. He looked away. I'm tired, Vera. For the first time, the king sounded almost defeated. So tired of being alone. He swallowed. In that hall, you looked directly at me. You were humiliated, hurt. Everyone was staring at you. Yet when I looked at you, you didn't flinch. He almost whispered the next words. I wanted someone who could look at me without flinching, even for a little while. It stole my breath. This man commanded armies. He had crushed rebellions. Entire territories feared him. And what he wanted most was painfully small. To be seen. Not worshipped. Not obeyed. Not feared. Seen. I knew that hunger. I had lived every day at Shadowpine watching people look past me as though I were furniture. Invisibility was its own kind of death. I can do that. The words left me before I could reconsider. I can look at you without flinching. Something softened inside his face. Thank you. We returned to our seats. But dinner was different afterward. The silence no longer felt like the silence between strangers. It felt like the silence between two people who had accidentally told each other the truth. Tell me about your wife. The question came impulsively. Your first wife. Surprise crossed his face. Then memory. Ara. A sad smile touched his mouth. Her name was Ara. She was brilliant, fierce. She argued with me constantly. For a moment he looked younger. We were happy before the curse. What happened? What happens to everyone I care about? He stared into the wine. She grew old. She died. I didn't. He turned the glass slowly between his fingers. She knew about the curse. She tried everything she could to break it. Eventually she began resenting me for remaining young while she faded. She hated that I couldn't die beside her. I'm sorry. Don't be. It happened 200 years ago. Theron's expression became distant. The grief has become something I can carry. He looked at me. Tell me about your mother. So I did. I told him about her laugh, how she braided my hair, the stories she told. Her slow illness, how it consumed her piece by piece, how my father seemed to break when she died, how Marin arrived within a year and stepped into Mother's place as though she had simply been waiting for it to become available. Theron did not interrupt. He did not give me meaningless comfort. He simply listened. When I finished, he said, Your stepmother is a fool. I touched my bald head automatically. She took the only beautiful thing I had. No. His answer came immediately. She gave you armor. I stared. How is this armor? Because anyone looking at you now sees someone who survived. His gaze lingered on my bare scalp. They see someone tested and still standing. He paused. Hair returns. Then his silver eyes met mine. Courage is rarer. His voice softened. And you wear yours like a crown. Warmth opened painfully inside my chest. No one had ever looked at my baldness and seen anything except shame. Thank you. We talked for hours afterward. Books. The North. Ancient kingdoms. Loneliness. Survival. The stories people tell themselves to make darkness bearable. It was the most honest conversation of my life. Eventually Theron rose. The moon will rise soon. Outside, the sky had turned deep indigo. Stars appeared. What happens when you change? I asked carefully. Does it hurt? Yes. His answer was simple. But I've grown used to pain. He looked away. It's losing control I hate. The way the beast thinks, the way it hunts. He headed toward the doorway. I'll see you tomorrow. Will you tell me more? He stopped. About the curse, about your life. If you truly want to hear it. Theron looked over his shoulder. Most people don't. The truth becomes heavy. I want all of it. Something like gratitude appeared briefly. Then tomorrow. He left. Garrett walked me back. As we crossed Frostholm's cold halls, I realized my place had begun changing. I had arrived expecting to be property. A prisoner. A political pawn. Instead, I was becoming something far more dangerous. A confidant. Someone holding the king's secrets. Someone beginning to care whether he suffered. In my room, I lay awake listening to the castle settle. Somewhere far away, Theron was changing into whatever monster the curse forced him to become. He was hurting. Alone. And for the first time since he chose me, I wanted to help. Not because I loved him. Nothing so dramatic. Not yet. I wanted to help because I recognized pain. Because loneliness recognizes loneliness. Because he had looked at the thing Marin intended as my greatest humiliation and called it courage. That deserved something in return. I fell asleep thinking about curses, promises, and kings who could not die, and dreamed of silver eyes watching me from darkness with something almost like hope. Chapter 5. The next 3 weeks developed a rhythm I never expected, something almost peaceful. Every morning I woke alone. A servant brought breakfast. I read, explored, sometimes stood beside the window watching snow descend across the endless white landscape. The isolation should have crushed me. Instead, after years spent anticipating Marin's next cruelty, solitude began to feel like healing. And every evening I ate with Theron. Those conversations became the center of my days. He revealed his past carefully, piece after piece. As though too much truth at once might send me running. The witch who cursed him had been a healer named Morgessa. Long before becoming the Frost King I knew, Theron had loved her. Then he betrayed her for political advantage. Her curse came not from simple cruelty. It came from heartbreak. You will live forever, she had told him, until you understand what it means to be truly seen. One night, Theron explained, she wanted me to understand what I destroyed. A promise? Our promise. His eyes darkened. I broke it for a crown. She made certain I would spend eternity learning the price. Do you regret it? Every day for 2 centuries. The honesty in his face hurt to witness. Does that satisfy you? This isn't about satisfaction. I'm trying to understand. I pushed vegetables around my plate. You're not the monster you keep calling yourself. A true monster wouldn't regret what he'd done. You haven't watched me change. No. I met his eyes. But I've seen you. That matters. He studied me. You're remarkably stubborn. So I've heard. Our discussions wandered through centuries. Theron told me about wars I knew only from books. Kingdoms that had appeared and vanished while he remained unchanged. He described watching people die, watching eras disappear, eventually forgetting what hope even felt like. I told him more about Shadowpine. Mother, father retreating into cowardice after losing her. Marin slowly destroying everything I valued. Celestine's sympathy that never became action. How invisibility had become my primary survival skill. You were never invisible, Theron told me one night. People treated me like I was. That means you were overlooked. Not invisible. What's the difference? If you were invisible, you would not matter. His silver eyes narrowed. If people deliberately look away, sometimes it's because they're afraid you matter more than they want to admit. It was one of the kindest things anyone had ever told me. On the 18th evening, something changed. We had finished venison and winter vegetables when Theron rose. Come with me. He gestured toward the door. I want to show you something. I followed him deeper through Frostholm, corridors I had never seen. Finally, we reached ancient carved doors. Theron removed a key. I thought about something you said. He unlocked them. About stories. About how you survived by escaping into them. The doors opened. I stepped into paradise. The library rose 3 stories. Galleries circled the chamber. Above us, a domed ceiling had been painted with constellations. Books covered shelf after shelf in every direction. Leather bindings. Ancient volumes with titles faded almost beyond recognition. The smell reached me immediately. Old paper. Leather, dust, and something harder to name, perhaps magic, perhaps simply centuries of accumulated thought. I entered in a daze. My fingertips traveled across book spines. This is yours. I turned. Theron watched me. If you want it. He glanced over the immense room. No one uses it anymore. My scholars died long ago. I've read everything here at least twice. He came closer. You look at books the way other people look at treasure. Then he said simply, so it's yours. I turned fully toward him. Whatever he saw on my face drew a real smile from him. Not one of the tiny restrained almost smiles I had occasionally noticed. A genuine one. Why? My voice nearly disappeared. Because you answered the riddle. Because you don't flinch when you look at me. Then he hesitated. His hand rose. Slowly, carefully, he touched my bare head. No one had touched my scalp since Marin cut my hair. His palm was warm, gentle. Because I want you to have something beautiful here. His voice roughened, even if that beauty is only words on pages. Tears filled my eyes before I could stop them. In 18 days, a cursed king had offered me more genuine kindness than my own family had in 18 years. Thank you. I swallowed. Theron. He went completely still. Until that moment, I had always called him Your Majesty or Sire. But surrounded by books and honesty, titles suddenly felt dishonest. Theron. I said it again. Can I call you that when we're alone? Yes. His voice sounded rough. Yes, you may. Something delicate stretched between us. It was not love, not yet. But perhaps it was where love might eventually begin. Trust. Recognition. Two people who had lived alone so long they had forgotten the shape of companionship. Then Theron stepped back. The moon will rise soon. I need to leave. One question first. His body tightened. What? When you transform, can anyone see you, or do you lock yourself somewhere? I lock myself away. His voice became flat. Deep beneath the castle, no one sees me. No one? No one should. Why? Because it is dangerous. He looked away. I'm not myself. He stopped. Then finally, and because I don't want you seeing me like that. What if I want to? The question startled both of us. What if I want to see everything? The king and the beast. Fear entered his silver eyes. No. His response was immediate. Absolutely not. Why? Because you would hate me. The certainty hurt. Everyone who has ever seen that creature has either run or tried to kill me. I won't risk it with you. I wouldn't. You don't know what you'd do until you saw it. He was already retreating. Enjoy the library, Vera. I'll see you tomorrow. He left before I could argue. I stood surrounded by thousands of books while frustration battled concern. Theron had offered me vulnerability and then fled when I tried to offer the same. But I understood why. 200 years of rejection had taught him to expect horror whenever anyone saw the creature beneath the crown. He thought I would judge him the same way. What he did not understand was that monsters no longer frightened me as easily as they once had. I had grown up beside one. I spent the following days devouring his library. History, poetry, folklore from countries I had never known existed. Philosophy complicated enough to make my mind ache pleasantly. I even discovered volumes written in languages I could not read. Sometimes I simply traced the unfamiliar letters and imagined the stories trapped inside. Garrett visited often enough to keep me fed and keep the enormous fireplace burning. You look happy, he observed one afternoon. A tray of bread and cheese sat in his hands. I am. The realization surprised me. Is that strange? Garrett pretended to think. You're living in a cursed northern fortress with an immortal king who becomes a monster every night. He nodded solemnly. No, completely ordinary. I threw a cushion at him. His laughter filled the library. He's not terrible, I said after a moment. Theron. He's lonely, sad, but not terrible. Garrett's expression softened. No, he isn't. Then his face became serious. He's simply been hurt so many times that he's forgotten how to expect anything except pain. Garrett hesitated. You're good for him. I looked up. I haven't seen him truly smile in years, but when he talks about you. Garrett shook his head. Don't give up on him when he pushes you away. I won't. That evening, Theron immediately tested that promise. From the moment I entered the dining room, he was distant. Short answers. Avoided eyes. Everything easy between us suddenly vanished. Did I do something? I eventually put down my fork. No. Then why are you treating me like a stranger? Silence followed. Then he said, I made a mistake. What mistake? The library. His expression became deliberately empty. Allowing you to call me Theron, forgetting what this arrangement is. And what is it? A transaction. The words struck hard. I selected you because I wanted the curse broken. You're here because you had nowhere else to go. He forced himself to meet my eyes. That is all. You don't believe that. Don't I? Now his gaze was cold. Painfully, intentionally cold. I'm 200 years old, Vera. I've allowed myself to care before. The result is always the same. He looked away. They leave. They die, and I remain. His jaw hardened. Forgive me if I would prefer not to repeat that. So your solution is to keep me away from you, if necessary. Theron stood. Finish eating. I have work. Theron. Your Majesty. The correction was sharp. Address me properly. Then he left. I sat alone with rage and hurt twisting inside my stomach. How dare he? How dare he give me a library? His name? Pieces of his history? Then act as if none of it mattered? How dare he decide on behalf of both of us that connection was too dangerous? I returned to my chamber furious. I understood this was fear. That did not make it hurt less. Then an idea came. Reckless. Stupid. Probably dangerous. If Theron refused to show me his beast voluntarily, I would find it myself. I waited until the castle went silent. Then I stole a candle and slipped from my room. Frostholm was a maze, but I had paid attention during every escorted journey. I knew the lower levels lay roughly beneath the western side. Finding the correct stairs took nearly an hour. Wrong turns. Dead corridors. Then I saw a narrow staircase descending into darkness. An iron gate blocked it. Locked. Naturally. But the lock was old, and surviving Marin had taught me several skills respectable daughters were not supposed to know. A hairpin would have helped. I no longer had hair, so I removed a thin strip of metal from a wall sconce. After several frustrating minutes, the lock clicked. I entered. The deeper I descended, the colder and wetter the air became. Moisture covered the walls. My flame shook. Then I heard something below. Scraping, growling, a sound balanced somewhere between animal rage and human suffering. My heart hammered. This was madness, possibly suicide, but I kept walking. The staircase opened into an abandoned dungeon corridor. Empty cells lined both sides. Except the last one. I raised my candle and saw the beast. He was enormous, at least 8 feet tall. Built from something that belonged inside nightmares. Midnight black fur covered his body and seemed to swallow the candlelight. His hands ended in dagger-long claws. His face was neither fully wolf nor fully man. And his eyes, silver, intelligent, terrifying. He paced inside the cell. Then he caught my scent. His head snapped toward me. We stared at one another. Every instinct inside me screamed to run. The creature before me looked like death wearing fur, the monster from childhood stories. And yet, Theron, the name left my lips. The beast stopped. Completely. Those eyes, his eyes. Same silver, same impossible depth. He approached the bars slowly, cautiously, as though I were the creature likely to flee. I remained. I'm not afraid. My hands betrayed me by trembling. I know you're there. I know you can hear me. A low sound rolled from his chest. It was not quite a growl, almost wonder. I stepped closer. Only iron separated us now. Up close he was more terrifying, and somehow more magnificent. They told me you're a monster. My voice softened. They also told me I'm worthless, so their judgment isn't especially reliable. I placed one hand against the bars. I see you, Theron. My eyes held his. The king and the beast. And I'm still here. The creature slowly lifted one enormous claw. He moved with extraordinary care. The tip touched my fingers through the bars. A shock traveled through me. Neither of us moved for several seconds. Girl and monster. Human and beast. Two damaged things recognizing each other inside darkness. Then footsteps echoed. Garrett called my name. Panic filled his voice. I have to go, I whispered to the beast. But I'll come back. Then I added, I promise. A sound came from him. Loss. Longing. I hurried toward the stairs. Garrett met me halfway. He seized my shoulders. Are you insane? His face was white. If he'd hurt you. He didn't. Vera. He won't. I looked directly at Garrett. I know that now. He stared at me like I had grown another head. What happened down there? I saw him. That was all I could say. All of him. I swallowed. And I'm still here. Back in bed, my heart refused to slow. My fingers still tingled where the beast had touched me. Tomorrow Theron would be furious. I had disobeyed him, risked my life, seen the thing he wanted most desperately to hide. But I had also discovered something he himself did not understand. The beast did not want to hurt me. It wanted what Theron wanted, to be seen. And for the first time, I understood what Morgessa might have meant. Being truly seen was not about someone ignoring your flaws. It meant they saw the darkness clearly, and remained anyway. Chapter 6. Theron did not come to dinner the next evening, or the next. 3 days passed. I remained alone with confusion and guilt, wondering whether I had destroyed the fragile bond between us. Garrett brought meals with obvious disapproval. Even the library felt different. Less sanctuary. More beautiful cage. On the 4th night, someone knocked. I opened the door. Theron stood in the corridor. He still wore formal clothing. His expression revealed nothing. His eyes revealed everything. Fear. Confusion. Something close to wonder. May I enter? I stepped aside. Theron walked to my window. For several moments he only watched the frozen world beyond it. His hands clasped behind his back. You should not have gone into the dungeons. I know. You could have been hurt. He paused. Killed. I could have. I might have torn you apart without knowing what I was doing. But you didn't. He turned. Raw emotion filled his face. No. His voice broke slightly. I didn't. I moved closer. And I don't understand why. What do you mean? The beast is always violent, hungry. It throws itself against the bars. It tries to escape. Anything approaching that cell becomes a target. He dragged a hand through his hair. But you arrived. His voice lowered. You spoke. And? It stopped. Theron looked almost frightened by the memory. All the rage simply stopped. Maybe because I wasn't afraid. Everyone is afraid. He said it as absolute truth. Everyone runs, or fights, or freezes. Then his eyes found mine. But you touched the bars. He shook his head. You stayed. Why? Because I wanted to see you. The answer was simple. All of you. Not only the pieces you were comfortable showing. Something inside Theron's expression broke. He crossed the distance between us in 2 strides. Then he pulled me into his arms. Not violently, desperately, like a drowning man finally touching land. His breath brushed my bare scalp. His enormous body trembled. You're going to ruin me. His voice broke against my skin. You're going to make me hope again. He held me tighter. And hope may be the cruelest gift anyone can give an immortal. I wrapped my arms around him. He felt solid, warm, real. Not the distant king he pretended to be. Then let me ruin you. My whisper almost became a laugh. I'm already ruined. We can be ruins together. He drew back. The emotion in his eyes stole my breath. Not love. Not yet. Something near it. Dangerous. Beautiful. Terrifying. There's something else you have to know. His voice became rough. About the curse. About why I selected you. Dread tightened my stomach. What? He released me and returned to the window, as though distance would make the truth easier. The curse can only be broken if someone loves both forms. I waited. The king and the beast. I know. No. His shoulders tightened. She must love both without knowing they are the same person. I frowned. Everyone knows you transform at night. They know I transform. They don't know exactly what I become. He faced the glass. Morgesa's curse requires someone to fall in love with the king and the beast separately, before learning they are one. Understanding came slowly. For 200 years, he continued, I've tried. His voice sounded exhausted. Sometimes the beast would appear to a woman first, hidden, mysterious. If she showed kindness toward it, I would approach her afterward as king. But no one loved both. No. He looked at me. Some loved one, some hated both. Or time ran out. Yes. Then he swallowed. With you, I thought I could reverse it. You met the king first. The ceremony. We've built something since then. He took a shaking breath. When you found the beast and it responded to you, for one moment I believed. His voice faded. I thought perhaps this time it would work. My stomach sank. But I already knew. He closed his eyes. I knew the beast was you. Yes. That ruined the condition. Silence gave me the answer. Now it can't work. I'm sorry. Theron turned back toward me. I was trying to keep both forms separate. I didn't want you in those dungeons. His expression was devastated. But you're impossible. Stubborn. Determined to see everything. His voice cracked. And now I've ruined it. No. He came toward me quickly and took my face in both hands. You gave me something I have not had in 2 centuries. His touch was impossibly gentle. You saw both sides and stayed. Silver eyes searched mine. Even if the curse never breaks, you saw me, Vera. Emotion roughened his voice. Actually saw me. Tears burned in my eyes. This isn't fair. No. You deserve freedom. Life is rarely fair. His thumb caught a tear. You know that better than anyone. Then his expression softened. I had these weeks. He smiled sadly. I saw you happy in the library. I heard you laugh at my terrible jokes. I watched you investigate 2 centuries of my life like I was some impossible mystery. He looked away. That's more than I've had in a very long time. Stop. My voice became fierce. Don't speak like this is finished. There has to be another way. A loophole. I've searched for 200 years. His smile contained no hope. There isn't one. Morgesa was extremely thorough. He lowered his hands. Which brings me to something else. My dread deepened. What? You can't remain here. The words struck like a physical blow. What? It isn't safe. I'm perfectly safe. Not from me. His jaw tightened. From what this will become. Theron crossed to my writing desk. A piece of parchment lay there. You're becoming attached. I can see it. He stopped. And I'm... For the first time, the ancient Alpha King seemed unable to finish a sentence. I'm falling in love with you. The confession hurt more than it should have. Which means eventually, when you leave, when you grow older, when you find someone capable of giving you an ordinary life. His voice weakened. It will destroy me again. He looked away. I can't endure that again, Vera. So you're sending me away? Anger flared. You're surrendering. I'm protecting us. His kingly tone returned. You will receive an estate in the south, land, money, everything necessary to live comfortably. He forced the words out. You'll be free. You can meet someone your own age, have a family, live a normal life instead of being trapped here with you. He stopped. That's what you meant. His silence admitted it. You're a coward. Theron flinched. You survived 2 centuries alone, but you're terrified of actually caring for someone. Yes. His admission shocked me. Yes, I am. He looked exhausted. Because if you leave now, you can still have happiness. I'll return to what I was. Alone. Safe. Being alone isn't safety. My voice cracked. It's only a slower way of dying. His own words had taught me that. Then I taught you incorrectly. Theron headed for the door. You'll leave in 3 days. Take whatever books you want. Lady Kira will make arrangements. Theron, please. He stopped without turning. Your Majesty. That title became a wall between us. Address me correctly, Miss Ashford. Then he left. I stood alone. Heartbroken. Furious. He had given me understanding. Kindness. A place where I finally felt visible. And now he wanted to take all of it away. Not because he felt nothing. Because he felt too much. 2 centuries of grief had convinced him love was simply another name for future pain. I wanted to hate him. I understood him too well. For 2 days I packed. Books went into boxes. Servants collected the few possessions I had accumulated. Garrett tried to talk. I had no words. Lady Kira treated my departure like another administrative problem. Theron never came. I told myself it did not matter. I told myself leaving his frozen fortress would be good for me. I told myself I would forget him in a month. Lie after lie. On my final evening, I visited the library. I wanted to memorize everything. The smell of paper, the light coming through high windows, where the poetry shelves stood, the exact astronomy section where I had spent hours tracing star charts. My fingers moved over a row of poems. The library door opened. Theron stood there. He looked terrible. Hair disordered. Dark shadows under his eyes. Clothing wrinkled. I shouldn't be here. Then why are you? Because I'm a fool. He entered. His hands were trembling. I have spent days trying to convince myself I'm doing the correct thing. He swallowed. I can't. Hope hurt inside my chest. Then let me stay. I can't. Anguish broke through his voice. Don't you understand? If you remain, I will fall completely in love with you. He approached. And someday, I'll watch you age, fade, die, while I remain 35. Pain sharpened every word. I've lived through that once. I barely survived it. So I have to disappear to spare you the risk. I moved toward him. What about what I want? You deserve better. He gestured around us. Better than this frozen kingdom, better than a cursed king, better than a creature who becomes a monster every night. His eyes shone. You deserve sunlight, warmth, someone who can grow old beside you. I don't want normal. The words exploded from me. I never asked for normal. Tears came. I wanted someone to see me. My chest tightened. You did. I wanted to matter. My voice broke. With you, I mattered. I stepped closer. I wanted our dinners. Your stories. I wanted to keep talking to you every night. I wanted to see the beast again and watch him become calm when I touched those bars. My next words nearly failed. I wanted this. Then, I wanted you. The past tense hurt both of us. Vera. But you're too afraid to let yourself have something good. Tears covered my face now. So fine. I forced myself to keep speaking. I'll leave. I'll take your estate, your books, your money. I'll build a life somewhere warm. My hands shook. Maybe someday I'll meet someone normal and safe. I stood close enough to touch him. I didn't. And every night I'll remember the king who gave me a library and then sent me away. I saw pain cross his face. I'll remember the beast who became still when I touched the bars. My voice sharpened. And I'll remember the man who convinced me I was worth seeing and then decided I wasn't worth keeping. That's not why. Isn't it? I stared directly into his eyes. My father decided I wasn't worth the effort. Marin did. Celestine, in her way, did too. I could barely breathe. And now you. Theron looked wounded. So congratulations, Your Majesty. I hated myself even while saying it. You fit perfectly into my family. The cruelty landed. He recoiled. Before either of us could continue, a guard burst through the library doors. Your Majesty. The man's face was pale. Riders are approaching from the south. They carry Shadowpine's banner. Theron went rigid. Shadowpine? He looked toward me. Does your father know you're leaving? No, I haven't contacted anyone. Then why would... He headed quickly for the door. Stay here. What? Do not leave this library until I return. Theron. But he was already gone. The guard followed. I remained among the books with my heart pounding. Our devastating argument temporarily vanished beneath a new question. Why would riders travel all the way from Shadowpine? What news could possibly justify that journey? Every instinct inside me insisted the answer would change everything. Chapter 7. The Year of Hollow Happiness. I did not obey. Of course I didn't. Theron ordered me to remain in the library while he met Shadowpine's riders, but I had never been especially good at following commands that made no sense. Something was wrong. I felt it. And I refused to wait among books while the world collapsed somewhere else. I followed voices toward the great hall. The scene inside was barely controlled chaos. Theron stood at the center, still wearing the rumpled clothes from our argument. 5 exhausted riders faced him. Road dust covered all of them. Then I saw the person standing among them. Celestine. My stepsister looked terrible. Her golden hair was tangled. Mud covered her torn dress. Her eyes were red and wild. When she noticed me, her face collapsed. Vera. She ran. Her hands gripped my arms. Oh gods, Vera. I'm sorry. I tried to stop her. I swear I tried. Stop who? My stomach tightened. Celestine, what happened? Your stepmother. Theron's voice came coldly from behind her. Lady Marin has been arrested for attempted murder. The hall seemed to tilt. What? Celestine clung harder. She poisoned father. I stared. After you left, mother became convinced father planned to disinherit me because of what she did to you. Celestine struggled to speak. She put wolfsbane into his wine. Slowly, she wanted everyone to believe he was becoming ill. Is he dead? No. Fresh tears came. He's alive. Barely. The healers realized what was happening. Her voice cracked. Then they searched mother's rooms. Celestine looked almost sick. They found letters, plans. She swallowed. She intended to kill me too. Her own daughter. She thought if both father and I were dead, she could marry someone more powerful and start again. I could hardly process it. Marin had always been cruel. But murder? One rider stepped forward. Lord Caldris. I recognized him from the mating ceremony. Lady Marin has already been condemned to death. However, she invoked her legal right to appeal before King Theron as supreme authority over the territories. He bowed. By law, the matter must be brought before His Majesty. Theron's jaw tightened. My presence is required at the execution. Yes, Your Majesty. Within the fortnight according to tradition. Several emotions crossed Theron's face. Frustration. Resignation. Something darker. Then I returned to Shadowpine. We depart at first light, Your Majesty. Lady Kira approached carefully. Perhaps Miss Ashford should remain here, considering her history with Lady Marin. No. The word left me instantly. Everyone looked toward me. I'm going. I met Theron's eyes. If Marin dies, I want to be there. Understanding entered his face. This was not entirely revenge. I needed closure. I needed to see the woman who had controlled my nightmares reduced to something mortal. She comes, Theron said. His voice ended the discussion. Prepare horses for dawn. Lord Caldris, your riders may rest here tonight. He left. Celestine sagged against me. I don't know what to do. She sounded small. Father is dying. Mother is a monster. Her body shook. And I'm alone. For the first time, I saw her without Marin standing between us. Not the golden-favored daughter. Not the girl who had watched my suffering in silence. Another victim. Another young woman who survived Marin by choosing obedience. You're not alone. The words surprised me. Come on. I supported her. Let's get you cleaned up, then you need food. We rode for Shadowpine at dawn. 20 riders crossed the frozen landscape at a punishing speed. Theron led. His distant king's expression had returned. I rode beside Celestine in traveling clothes borrowed from Frostholm. The journey usually required 5 days. Theron forced us to make it in 3. He spoke to me only when necessary. Our argument remained between us. The terrible words. The goodbye neither of us had completed. Now Marin's death sentence had trapped us inside a strange limbo. Too much remained unsaid. On the second night, Celestine and I shared a tent. She slowly brushed her hair beside candlelight. He loves you. I stared at the canvas ceiling. Who? King Theron. She almost sounded impatient. It's obvious. He has a strange way of demonstrating it. He was sending you away before we arrived? Yes. Why? He's immortal. I turned toward her. Everyone he loves dies. He thinks pushing me away now will save him from watching me grow old later. Celestine stared. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Despite everything, I nearly smiled. It is, isn't it? She became quiet. My father loved my mother. Lord Ashford. No, my real father. Her hands slowed. Before mother married yours. He died when I was 5. Hunting accident. Celestine looked into the candle flame. I barely remember him, but I remember mother before he died. Her eyes became distant. She was warm. She sang. What changed? Grief, maybe. Celestine twisted strands of hair around her fingers. She couldn't control his death. Afterward, she tried to control everything else. Then she looked at me. Your king is doing the same thing. That struck deeper than I expected. He's trying to avoid pain by controlling whether he ever feels it. Celestine shook her head. But that's not living. Number. It wasn't. And suddenly I understood why Theron and I recognized each other so easily. We had spent years doing the same thing. Surviving instead of living. Building walls instead of relationships. I hid inside stories. He hid behind immortality. Both of us feared loss enough to settle for emptiness. I'm falling in love with him. The confession came quietly. Maybe I already have. I stared toward the tent roof. And then he pushed me away. I said terrible things. I don't know how to repair it. Do you want to? Yes. Then make him let you. The Celestine squeezed my hand. You're the woman who walked bald into a mating ceremony and somehow left with a king. A faint smile crossed her face. You're stronger than you think, Vera. We reached Shadowpine on the 3rd day. The keep looked exactly as I remembered. Gray towers. Familiar courtyards, corridors where I had spent 18 years learning to disappear, yet everything seemed smaller. As if I had outgrown this place without noticing. Father lay in his rooms, barely conscious. Healers surrounded him. Their expressions answered most questions. Will he live? The head healer hesitated. Perhaps, my lady, if the poison has not already caused too much damage. Then, he will never be the same. He had not been the same since mother died. This seemed only another step in his long disappearance. I stood at the doorway watching him. I felt very little. Only an empty space where emotion should have been. Marin waited in the dungeons. Theron went to see her that evening. I followed without asking. If he disliked it, he said nothing. We descended through cold stone. Marin sat on a bench inside one cell. She still wore the expensive gown from her arrest, now filthy and wrinkled. When she saw me, hate transformed her face. You. She stood. This is your fault, your curse. Everything fell apart after you left. I'm not the person who poisoned my husband. He was going to disinherit Celestine. Marin gripped the bars. He intended to give everything to you because he felt guilty. I couldn't allow that. So you tried to kill him. Theron's voice contained winter. And your daughter? Celestine is weak. Marin's face twisted. Useless, like her father. She looked at me. I did what was necessary to survive. You understand that, don't you? You survived by making everyone pity you. Her eyes glittered. I survived by being strong. No. I moved closer. You're not strong. She stiffened. You're afraid. I watched real fear finally reach her face. Theron spoke. The execution occurs tomorrow at dawn. You've been offered last rites and an opportunity to confess. His voice was emotionless. Use the time remaining wisely. We left while Marin screamed curses after us. Outside the dungeon, Theron looked at me. You didn't need to come. Yes, I did. I exhaled slowly. I needed to know she was real, that she couldn't hurt me anymore. Did it help? Yes. I looked toward the stairway behind us. She's only a woman. The realization surprised me. Broken, bitter, cruel, but only a woman. I swallowed. She isn't the enormous monster I built in my head. Theron studied me. We need to talk. Yes. I met his eyes. After the execution, when this is finished. A guard suddenly ran toward us. Your Majesty, the prisoner. We rushed back. Marin lay on the stone floor. Foam covered her lips. Her skin had already begun turning cold. An empty vial rested on the bench. Poison, hidden somewhere inside her clothes. She chose her own death, the guard said shakily, rather than face public execution. I stared at her body. There was no satisfaction, no grief, only enormous relief. She was gone. She would never hurt me again. Well, Theron said quietly, that resolves the matter. With Marin dead and father barely alive, we had little reason to remain. Celestine became temporary regent until father either recovered or died. She asked me to stay. We both understood I could not. Shadowpine was no longer home. Perhaps it never had been. On our last evening there, Theron came to my old bedroom. I've been thinking. He moved toward the same window where I had once watched the moon and dreamed of escape. About what you called me. A coward. Yes. He faced the glass. You were right. I remained silent. I've used the curse as an excuse for 200 years. His voice became low. An excuse not to risk being hurt. He turned. Then you came. I began feeling something real again. His jaw tightened, and I panicked. He looked directly at me. I told myself sending you away was protection. Really, I was protecting myself. I know. I don't expect forgiveness. Theron's gaze dropped. I don't even expect you to return to Frostholm. Something inside me tightened. The southern estate is still yours. Money, land, freedom, everything I promised. He swallowed. You can build whatever life you choose, and I'll go back to being alone. His voice nearly disappeared. Like I deserve. I crossed the room, then took his face between my hands. You're an idiot. He blinked. A brilliant, ancient, impossible idiot. I know. I'm returning to Frostholm. His eyes widened. Vera. Not because I lack alternatives. I held him still. Not because you're king. Not because you gave me books. Not because I pity you. My voice softened. I'm going back because when I'm with you, I don't disappear. He stopped breathing. You see me. Completely. I smiled through the ache in my chest. And somehow being seen by you helped me see myself too. His expression filled with fear. You'll age. I know. I won't. I know. You'll die. I know. Pain sharpened his face. And that will hurt us. I continued. But at least it will be real pain from having truly loved something. Tears burned my eyes. Not the empty pain of hiding safely from life. I touched his cheek. You taught me survival isn't the same as living. I gave him a faint smile. So let's live. For however much time we have. His face broke. And when I die, you can grieve me properly, instead of spending eternity wondering what might have happened if you'd been brave enough to love me. Theron pulled me into his arms. His face buried against my neck. I already love you. The confession warmed my skin. I've tried not to. His arms tightened. But I love you so much that I'm terrified. Good. I held him. I'm terrified too. My voice softened. Let's be terrified together. We remained there in the bedroom, where I once dreamed only of escape. And finally, I understood what I had actually been seeking. Not rescue. Not perfect safety. Someone willing to be afraid beside me. We returned to Frostholm 1 week later. And for the following year, I was genuinely happy. Theron and I found our rhythm again. Days in the library. Sometimes reading together. Sometimes separately. Passing each other passages that mattered. Evenings at dinner. Talking about everything and nothing. His centuries of experience collided endlessly with my curiosity. At night, before the moon rose, he sometimes visited my chambers just to hold me, to memorize my presence before the transformation claimed him. Other nights, I went to the dungeons. I sat outside his cell. I talked to the beast, read poetry, told him ordinary things about my day. At first, he only watched with those silver eyes. Eventually, he began responding. Small gestures, quiet sounds, gentleness that seemed impossible in a creature so frightening. I never touched him through the bars again. That first night remained unique. The iron stayed between us. A necessary boundary. But I visited whenever I could. I refused to let him believe he was alone in the darkness. Theron never asked what I told his other form. Perhaps he was afraid of the answer. Weeks became months. Conversation became intimacy. Still, we did not consummate our relationship. Some surprisingly traditional part of Theron insisted on a proper wedding first. I never pressured him. There was something strangely sweet about watching a 200-year-old king become careful and awkward around me. Every night, he asked the same thing. Will you marry me? Every morning, I gave the same answer. Not yet. It wasn't because I didn't want him. I was afraid. Afraid that once I said yes, once vows and ceremony made everything permanent, the fragile happiness we created would shatter. Fear makes fools of everyone eventually. Then one morning Garrett came to my chambers with news that froze my blood. A delegation from the Eastern Territories is coming. His face looked pale. His Majesty will host a diplomatic summit. There will be a ball. Why do you look like someone died? Garrett hesitated. There are rumors. What rumors? An engagement. My stomach dropped. Between King Theron and Princess Lyanna of the Eastern Territories. For a moment, nothing felt real. That's impossible. The East controls trade routes we need for winter supplies. Garrett's expression was apologetic. They've threatened to close them unless Theron agrees to a political marriage. I'm sure it's only rumor, he added quickly. I'm sure he wouldn't actually. I barely heard him. One thought swallowed everything. Theron had found someone else. Someone who could meet the beast without knowing who he was. Someone who might break the curse properly. And perhaps he intended to marry her. Chapter 8. The Wedding That Wasn't. I did not confront Theron immediately. That would have been sensible. I could have walked into his chambers and demanded the truth. Instead, I hid. Because I was terrified. If the rumors were true, if Princess Liana could actually free him, what right did I have to interfere? Theron deserved mortality. He deserved a life with an ending, even if receiving it destroyed me. So I hid inside the library. The same books that once comforted me became meaningless. Words on pages could not warm the emptiness spreading through my chest. 3 days passed. Then Theron came looking for me. I heard his footsteps crossing the library. Steady, deliberate. He appeared around the shelf where I had spent nearly an hour pretending to read the same page. You've been avoiding me. I've been reading. For 3 days. He came closer. You've missed every dinner. I kept my eyes down. Garrett told you about the delegation. Yes. And you assumed the worst. I finally looked up. Is it the worst? Pain entered my voice. Or is it simply what needs to happen? Theron sat opposite me. Princess Liana arrives tomorrow with her father, King Roland. There will be negotiations. A ball. He hesitated. And yes, her father wants a marriage alliance. Each word cut. And you're considering it. I'm king, Vera. His face tightened. I have to consider anything affecting my people. The trade routes. Yes. The East has threatened blockade unless you marry his daughter. I placed my book down with trembling hands. Can she break your curse? Theron said nothing. The answer became obvious. She doesn't know, does she? He remained still. About the beast. My throat tightened. You haven't told her. I understood the plan. If she meets you as king and then separately encounters the beast without knowing, I could not finish. It's possible. His voice was quiet. King Roland has been corresponding with Lady Kira for months. He looked miserable. Liana is young, idealistic. She's heard legends about the cursed king. She thinks it sounds romantic. Wonderful. Bitterness poisoned the word. She wants to save a monster. Vera. No. I stood. I understand. My voice shook. You waited 200 years for exactly this. I put distance between us. Someone who can love both identities separately. Someone who hasn't contaminated the experiment by discovering the truth too early. Don't describe yourself that way. His voice hardened. Why not? Isn't that exactly what happened? I turned. You told me yourself. I ruined my chance to break the curse because I went downstairs. That's not what you ruined. Then explain this. Anger broke through fear. Because from here, it looks as though you're choosing freedom over. I stopped. Over you. Theron completed it. His expression was suddenly raw. That's what you were about to say. I don't know. The words exploded out of him. I don't know what I'm supposed to choose. He stood. I love you. The confession was almost anguished. Gods, Vera, I love you so much I can barely breathe around it. Then his voice broke. But I've been trapped for 200 years. His hands clenched. 200 years of becoming that creature every night. Watching everyone die. Existing when I desperately wanted existence to end. He looked at me. And now there might be one chance to finally be free. With her. My voice sounded very small. Not with me. No. The word hurt him too. Not with you. He swallowed. But if the curse breaks, I can finally age. I could grow old normally, die normally, with whoever you choose afterward. His face tightened. Yes. The logic was horrible. It was also logical. What do you want from me? Tears burned my eyes. Permission? I laughed bitterly. Do you want me to smile and wish you happiness while you court another woman? I want. He dragged one hand through his hair. I want you to tell me I'm making a mistake. I stared. I want you to fight for me. His voice cracked. I want you to give me a reason to refuse the chance, even though asking that is selfish and unfair. Suddenly I understood. You want me to decide for you. He flinched. So whichever path hurts, you can escape responsibility. That's not. It is. I moved closer. You either want me to graciously set you free so you can pursue her without guilt. My vision blurred. Or you want me to beg you to choose me, so someday when you hate the curse again, you can remember I asked you to stay. That's unfair. Life isn't fair. My voice sharpened. You taught me that. I stood directly before him. Here is what I can give you. I took a breath. I love you. Theron froze. I love both versions. My voice trembled but continued. The king who gave me a library. The beast who goes quiet when I read. Your terrible jokes. Your endless stories. The way you look at me like I'm precious instead of broken. Tears finally escaped. But I will not beg you. If you want Princess Lyanna, pursue her. My chest hurt. I'll leave Frostholm. You'll never see me again. Then I forced myself to keep going. But if you choose me, you choose all of this. I gestured toward him. The curse, the nightly transformation, the uncertainty. My eyes locked with his. And you never get to resent me for that choice. Theron looked desperate. What if I can't choose? What if I don't know? Then you've already chosen. I stepped back. Because if you loved me enough, there wouldn't be a competition. He flinched. The curse wouldn't matter. Lyanna wouldn't matter. Nothing would matter except us. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. I turned away. Princess Lyanna arrives tomorrow. I looked back once. You have until then. My voice became steady. If you pursue her, I'll leave before the ball. And if you choose me? Theron barely whispered it. Tell her no. I faced him. Publicly. Let her father threaten you. I held his eyes. Choose us, Theron. Or let me go. I left before he answered. Princess Lyanna arrived the following day beneath silk banners and gilded carriages. I watched from my window. Eastern nobles filled the courtyard. Lyanna herself was stunning. Tall, graceful, copper-colored hair that caught the daylight. Perhaps 20 years old. Bright-eyed with the optimism of someone who had never needed to survive anything terrible. Everything I wasn't. Theron greeted her family formally. Cold. Regal. Every inch a king. I could not hear their words. But I saw Lyanna smile at him. Saw King Roland place a familiar hand on Theron's shoulder. My stomach turned. I did not go downstairs. I packed. Garrett found me an hour later. My trunk was half full of clothes and books. You're leaving. He hasn't told me not to. Maybe he's still deciding. No. I folded another dress. There's nothing to decide. He wants freedom. I tried to control my hands. She's his best chance. I'm only in the way. You're assuming. Am I? I faced Garrett. Has Theron asked for me today? Silence. Has he given you any indication that he chose me? More silence. I thought so. My throat closed. It's fine. Lie. I knew this was temporary. Another lie. I just thought there would be more time. The ball is tonight. Garrett's voice softened. Stay for it. Why would I deliberately torture myself? Because you deserve to see what actually happens. He met my eyes. If you leave now, you will always wonder if you left too soon. I hated him for being right. Fine. I returned to packing. I'll stay through the ball. Then, after that, I'm gone. I dressed that evening with extraordinary care. Not from vanity. Pride. If this was my final night in Frostholm, I would leave with dignity. The gown I selected was midnight blue, the color of the sky before dawn. Silver embroidery shimmered like stars. There was no hair to arrange. Instead, I wore a delicate silver circlet Lady Kira had left inside my chambers. Beside it was a note. "You are stronger than you know." I stared at myself. I did not look like a princess. I did not look traditionally beautiful. I looked like myself. Something harder, truer. Music floated from the great hall as I descended. Violins, drums, laughter. Candles transformed the room. Warm light fought the permanent northern cold. Tables overflowed with food. Couples moved across the polished floor. And there, near the center, Theron, with Princess Lyanna. They were not dancing, only talking. But she leaned toward him, laughed at something he said. My chest tightened. Lyanna looked radiant, appropriate, exactly what the wife of a king was supposed to look like. Theron looked like a man trying desperately to appear interested. I took wine from a servant, then retreated into shadows near the wall. No one noticed me. I still remembered how to disappear when necessary. There you are. Lady Kira appeared beside me. "I'm leaving after tonight." I watched the floor. "You'll need to give my chambers to someone else." She studied me. "And if His Majesty asks you to remain, he won't." "You're certain?" "Look at her." I nodded toward Lyanna. "She's perfect. And you're merely the woman he loves." Lady Kira's voice cut quietly through mine. I turned sharply. "Don't confuse political obligation with affection, girl." Her gaze moved to Theron. "He's performing duty. His heart isn't there." Before I could respond, the music changed. A ceremonial flourish. King Roland moved forward. His voice boomed through the hall. "Noble guests." Everyone turned. "It is my great pleasure to announce the engagement of my daughter, Princess Lyanna." My heart stopped. "To King Theron of Frostholm." Applause thundered. Something inside me broke cleanly. Theron stood perfectly still. His face revealed nothing. Lyanna took his arm with a radiant smile. They looked like a fairy tale. The powerful king, the beautiful princess. I placed my glass down carefully, then turned toward the doors. I had seen enough. I took 2 steps. The main doors exploded inward. Masked figures rushed into the hall. 6, perhaps 7. Crossbows, blades. Someone screamed. "Assassins!" The guards moved instantly. People scattered. The attackers fired. Not randomly, with precision. At Theron. 3 bolts struck his chest before his guards could fully shield him. He staggered. Blood spread across his formal clothes. Lyanna screamed, then ran. She abandoned him without hesitation. I moved before thinking, through the panicked crowd. Past fleeing nobles. Past guards shouting for people to get down. Straight toward Theron. One masked assassin noticed me. He raised a crossbow. I saw the bolt release. Theron appeared in front of me. The projectile buried itself in his shoulder. "You idiot." I caught him as he dropped to one knee. "Why would you? You matter more than the curse." His face was pale. His teeth clenched against pain. "Always did." He looked at me. I was just too afraid to. His body convulsed. The transformation started. Not the slow nightly change he had described. Violent. Bones cracked. His body reshaped. Black fur erupted. People screamed. Guards shouted for everyone to move away. I didn't. The beast rose where the king had fallen. Huge. Night black. 3 bolts remained buried in his chest and another in his shoulder. Blood darkened his fur. But already, his wounds began closing. The terrible blessing of his curse. He looked at me. Recognition lived inside those silver eyes. I saw him fighting the beast, holding himself. I'm not afraid. Chaos surrounded us. I see you, Theron. My voice remained quiet. Both of you. And I'm not afraid. The beast made a sound filled with grief and gratitude. Then he turned toward the assassins. What followed was carnage. He moved with impossible speed. Masked men tried to fight. Others tried to escape. They had made one fatal mistake. They threatened someone he loved. Within minutes, it ended. Some assassins lay dead. Others fled. Guards secured the hall. Nobles huddled together, horrified. At the center stood the beast, panting, blood covering his fur, some his, most belonging to others. And every person in the room now knew. The king and the beast were the same. Princess Lyanna stood near the dais. Her face had become white. The fascination she once felt toward the legendary cursed king disappeared. Only revulsion remained. Monster. Her whisper carried. You're a monster. The beast's shoulders lowered. That was the reaction Theron had feared for 2 centuries. The reason he hid. I started walking toward him. Vera, no, Garrett shouted. Stay back, he's dangerous. I ignored everyone. I walked directly toward the creature, then placed my hand over his massive chest. His heart hammered beneath fur and rapidly healing flesh. You saved me. I spoke loudly enough for the hall to hear. You've been saving me since the moment you chose me. Silver eyes watched mine. The king. My palm remained against him. And the beast. Both of you. I took a breath. I love both of you. The creature stopped moving. Completely. My voice steadied. Without reservation. Then, without fear. Light burst from him. White. Silver. Blinding. Gasps filled the hall. Someone shouted about magic. I could not look away. The creature's shape changed. Shrank. Bones moved beneath light. Fur vanished. Theron collapsed into my arms. Human. Completely himself. The crossbow bolt struck the floor as healed flesh closed where wounds had been. He breathed hard. Shock filled his eyes. The curse. His hand moved over his chest. It's gone. He stared at me. I can feel it. Around us, silence. Then Lady Kira spoke. Her voice contained awe. She loved both forms. Everyone looked toward her. She saw both as one, and loved him anyway. Kira's eyes widened. The curse is broken. Theron looked at me. Tears streamed down his face. You broke it. No. I helped him stand. We did. His expression collapsed. By choosing each other when it hurt. I held his gaze. Even when there was no guarantee it would work. Theron pulled me against him. His entire body shook. I chose wrong. His words disappeared against my head. I almost chose Lyanna, the possibility of freedom, the safety of not risking everything on love. His grip tightened. I nearly lost you, but you didn't. I drew back. When it mattered, when someone tried to kill me, you chose me. I touched his face. You transformed in front of everyone. You exposed the thing you've hidden for centuries, because protecting me mattered more than hiding. Understanding dawned in his eyes. That's when the curse began breaking. I smiled through tears. When you chose love over fear, Theron kissed me, in front of the entire court. Covered in blood, while 200 years of loneliness finally ended. When we separated, the hall remained silent. Then one person clapped. Garrett. Lady Kira joined him. Then another. And another. Until applause thundered through Frostholm. King Roland looked furious. Princess Lyanna looked ill. For once, neither mattered. Theron turned toward the assembled court. The engagement to Princess Lyanna is dissolved. His voice carried with absolute authority. Whatever political consequences follow, I will face them. Then his hand closed around mine. but I will marry no woman except this one." He lifted my hand. Vera Ashford. His gaze softened. The woman who saw me when no one else could, who loved me when I had given her every reason to leave, who ended a 200-year curse with courage and truth. Then he looked directly at me. For the first time, forever in his eyes did not look like a punishment. "Will you marry me?" He had asked that question countless times. For the first time, my answer changed. Yes. Epilogue. The promise kept. 10 months later, winter sunlight made the library look different. I had spent so many nights there beneath candlelight while Theron transformed far below. Now pale afternoon light came through frost-covered windows. The library felt warmer, more real, no longer simply a sanctuary. Home. I traced my fingers across the astronomy section, my favorite. A memory made me smile. Theron explaining constellations. 2 centuries of knowledge turning distant stars into old friends. "You're doing it again." I turned. He leaned against the doorway. Those silver eyes no longer reminded me of winter. Now they meant safety. Doing what? Touching the books as though you're afraid they'll disappear. Theron entered with that same predatory grace that once terrified me. Now it produced an entirely different reaction. "They aren't going anywhere." He approached. "Neither am I." I know. And I did. Mostly. Some part of me still expected to wake in Shadowpine. Bald, broken. Discover all of this had been another story created by my mind to survive something unbearable. Theron took the hand I had been dragging across the books. He pressed my palm over his heart. The beat beneath it was steady, present, real. "We've been married 7 months. He spoke quietly. "I've awakened beside you for 213 mornings. A tiny smile appeared. "I've held you after nightmares, listened to you read poetry until dawn, watched you reorganize this library 4 times because you couldn't choose between alphabetical and thematic order." His thumb stroked my hand. "When will you believe I'm permanent?" "I do believe it. Your mind believes." Theron cupped my face. "Your heart is still waiting for me to send you away." I leaned into his touch. I was an idiot once. His thumb traced my cheek. "I don't intend to repeat it. Being loved still felt strange sometimes. Wanted instead of tolerated. Seen instead of overlooked. Chosen repeatedly by someone who could have chosen nearly anyone. Father died last week." The words came suddenly. "Celestine sent word this morning." Theron's face softened. "I'm sorry." "I'm not." The truth felt heavy. "Is that terrible?" He waited. "I only feel relieved." "No." Theron pulled me against him. I breathed the familiar scent of pine and ice. "He stopped being your father long before his heart stopped." His voice was gentle. "You're allowed to grieve who he should have been without mourning the man he became. This was why I loved him. Not the crown. Not because he once carried a curse. Not even because he chose me in that mating hall." Theron understood that some wounds never truly disappeared. They simply became part of the landscape inside you. He never tried to repair every broken piece. He stayed while I learned how to live beside them. "Celestine wants us to come to Shadowpine." I spoke against his shirt. "For the funeral, and to discuss the estate. Do you want to go?" I pulled back. "Would you come with me?" "Vera." He sounded gently exasperated. "I would follow you into the underworld if you asked. Shadowpine hardly frightens me." I hesitated. "Even though they'll see you." "See what?" "The king." My eyes dropped. And the beast. Breaking the curse had not removed Theron's second form entirely. He could still become that enormous midnight creature. The difference was choice. No moon forced him anymore. Most nights he remained human. Sometimes, under a full moon or when emotion ran high, I woke to silver eyes glowing in darkness and knew the beast had chosen to surface simply to be near me. I loved both. the king who offered libraries and long conversations. The beast who curled protectively around me, enormous and warm and impossibly gentle. But the world was still learning not to fear him. Let them see. The old Frost King entered his voice. Then he softened. Besides, half of Shadowpine already knows. I raised an eyebrow. It's difficult to keep something secret after your king becomes a gigantic wolf creature during an assassination attempt. I laughed. Fair. Theron lifted my chin. His scrutiny still made breathing harder. You're different today. He watched closely. What else is bothering you? He knew me far too well. I've been thinking about your riddle. Which riddle? The first one. I walked toward the window. The promise. Theron joined me. Something given but never taken. Broken but never mended. Binding without weight. Yes. I finally understand why you asked it. I faced him. You weren't testing whether I was clever. Silver eyes watched me. You wanted to know whether I understood what matters. I continued. The difference between words and commitment. Between vows and truth. His expression became thoughtful. And I took his hand. You were also asking yourself something. What? Whether you could risk making another promise. He went still. After Morgesa. After Era. After everyone you loved and lost. My fingers laced through his. Maybe you were asking whether promises had any meaning left. For a long moment, Theron said nothing. Then what is the answer? Promises are terrifying. I answered honestly. Because we make them without knowing the future. I looked at our joined hands. You promise to love someone, but you don't know who they'll become. You promise to remain, but you don't know what might try to separate you. You promise to choose someone, but you don't know what that choice will eventually cost. Theron tilted his head. So promises are foolish. No. I squeezed his hand. They're brave. Because you make them anyway. I looked directly at him. You know you might fail. They might fail. The world might test everything you've said. I smiled faintly. But you promise anyway, because some things are worth the risk of being wrong. Theron pulled me close. His chest shook somewhere between laughter and tears. How did I become so fortunate that you walked into a mating ceremony, bald, furious, and completely unwilling to disappear? You chose me. I rested my head against him, and I chose you back. That was all promises really were. Two people choosing each other when safety remained available. We stood beneath winter sunlight until a knock interrupted us. Garrett appeared. Your Majesties, the Eastern delegation has arrived. Theron sighed. King Roland? Yes, sire. He wishes to discuss the trade routes. The ones he threatened to block unless I married his daughter. The very same. I felt tension return to Theron's body. King Roland had not accepted the broken engagement easily. Princess Lyanna's humiliation became political resentment. And resentment among kings died slowly. Tell him we'll meet in the throne room. Theron's voice became more serious. Position the guards. Garrett nodded and disappeared. You think he'll try something? I think powerful men dislike hearing no. Theron released me reluctantly. He may be here to see whether I'll prioritize my kingdom over my wife. His expression hardened into the ancient king's mask. Whether I'll finally make the politically intelligent choice. And will you? He looked at me. When he answered, his voice was soft. I spent 2 centuries making politically intelligent choices. He touched my cheek. They earned me nothing except loneliness. Then he said, I'm finished choosing kingdoms over the people I love. My heart warmed. But understand something. His expression became serious. This may mean war. Trade embargoes at minimum. He looked toward the window. Our people could suffer because I chose you. Then we find another answer. I spoke firmly. We negotiate, build different alliances, find new routes. We. Theron interrupted. That's the point. He took my hands. I'm not carrying everything alone anymore. His silver eyes held mine. You're not only my wife, you're my partner. Then his voice became quieter. My queen. The word still felt strange. I had never expected importance. I had wanted only to matter to someone. Somehow I had become queen of the Northern Territories, the woman who helped end a 2-century curse. The bald Omega King Theron selected in a room where everyone else dismissed her. Together, I said. We entered the throne room hand in hand. Theron placed me at his right side. Not below him, equal. King Roland and his entourage already waited, their expressions mixed diplomatic calm with poorly hidden hostility. King Theron. Roland bowed slightly. And your wife. The pause before wife was deliberate. Queen Vera. Theron corrected him. His voice dropped into the lethal softness that made alphas nervous. You will address her with the respect due her position. His eyes chilled. Or this discussion ends now. Roland's jaw tightened. Of course, Queen Vera. My apologies. I inclined my head. King Roland, thank you for traveling north. I understand you wish to discuss trade routes. His eyes traveled over me with faint contempt. I admit I'm curious, Your Majesty. He looked toward Theron. What did the North offer that my daughter could not? Silence filled the throne room. Theron's grip tightened around my hand. I answered first. Partnership instead of transaction. Roland's eyes narrowed. An alliance based on honesty instead of coerced marriage. I kept my voice calm, and an understanding that human beings are not commodities traded for shipping routes. Roland's face reddened. That is not. You offered your daughter as the solution to King Theron's curse. I continued. Not because you loved him, not because Lyanna's happiness mattered most. I held his gaze. You wanted northern resources and the prestige of joining your bloodline to an immortal king. The room became very still. When that plan failed, you threatened to starve our people unless compensated. I smiled. It was not especially kind. So forgive me for failing to feel responsible for your injured pride. Silence became thunderous. Then Roland laughed. Short, sharp. Your queen is remarkably direct. I learned from the best. I glanced at Theron. King Roland studied us. Calculation slowly replaced hostility. Very well. He adjusted his coat. Let's negotiate properly. No threats. He looked between us. What does the North require? What can the East provide? And what are you prepared to offer? The discussion lasted 3 hours. Theron handled military considerations. I focused on trade and resources. Months of quietly attending council meetings had taught me more than I realized. We offered limited mineral rights in exchange for open trade, military support against external threats in exchange for grain during severe northern winters. By the end, something resembling a true alliance had begun to form. Mutual benefit instead of coercion. When Roland prepared to leave, he stopped before me. I underestimated you, Queen Vera. I waited. I saw what you lacked. He spoke plainly. Rank, political family connections, conventional appearance. Then his gaze sharpened. I failed to notice what you possessed. And what's that? A spine. The answer was blunt enough to surprise me. Then he added almost reluctantly, my daughter would have made Theron miserable. I glanced at him. Lyanna is beautiful, educated, accomplished. Roland sighed. But she's never had to fight for anything. His eyes moved to Theron. She would never have understood him. Then, you chose well, Theron answered without hesitation. I may have chosen poorly for politics. His hand found mine, but I chose perfectly for everything that matters. After the delegation left, I collapsed onto the throne with a very unqueenly sigh. That was exhausting. Theron laughed. Actually laughed. The sound echoed around the empty room. You just told an Eastern king that he treated his daughter like merchandise. I was diplomatic. You were terrifying. Theron pulled me to my feet and kissed me. I have never found you more attractive. I laughed against him. Not even when I confronted your beast in the dungeon? Especially compared with then. He brushed his thumb over my cheek. Back then, you were surviving. His silver eyes softened. Today you were living, thriving. Then, being exactly who you were meant to become. That night, I entered our private chambers and found Theron sitting beside the window in beast form. His size still occasionally startled me. He remained something enormous and otherworldly. Fear, however, was long gone. I sat beside him. His huge head lowered into my lap. A deep rumble of contentment vibrated from his chest. Bad day? I stroked the dark fur. He huffed. That meant yes. Do you want to talk about it? Another huff. I smiled. Or just this. His nose pushed gently against my hand. Just this, then. I opened a book. We remained together quietly while I read poetry aloud. Just as I had in the early days beside his dungeon cell. Only now there were no iron bars between us. No curse forcing the transformation. Only a king who sometimes needed to become a beast. And a queen who loved both. Do you remember something? His ears lifted. The way you used to ask me every night, will you marry me? Silver eyes watched me, and I kept answering, not yet. I closed the book. For months. The beast remained motionless. I was convinced the moment I finally said yes, something would destroy everything. My hand rested against his fur. I spent so long preparing for disaster that I nearly missed happiness. His body shifted. Dark fur disappeared. Bones reshaped. A moment later, Theron sat beside me in human form, naked in the moonlight. And now? His voice was quiet. Now I say yes. I took his face in my hands. Every morning I wake beside you. Every night you ask whether I'm staying. Every time someone questions whether I'm certain. I kissed him softly. Yes. Then again. Yes. I smiled. 1,000 times, yes. Tears brightened his eyes. I'm done waiting for disaster. My forehead rested against his. I'm done being afraid that loving something means I'll inevitably lose it. I whispered, I'm simply going to love you, for however much time we're given. That's a promise. I know. And promises are brave. Theron smiled faintly. Because? Because we make them anyway. He held me until dawn. Two people broken by the world choosing to become whole together. Not because love repaired every wound. Not because either of us became perfect. Because we finally understood what being loved truly meant. Being completely seen. And still chosen. In the morning, I woke to find Theron already watching me with the expression he usually wore when he believed I was asleep. Good morning. He smiled. Will you marry me? I laughed. We're already married. I know. His fingers found mine. But I want to keep choosing you. Then my answer came exactly as it would every morning afterward. Yes. And there, surrounded by winter sunlight, and the man who had taught me that being broken did not make me worthless, I finally understood the riddle completely. A promise was never only words. It was a choice made again and again. When life became difficult. When fear warned you that everything could disappear. When easier paths appeared. Theron had promised to see me. Truly see me. And he had kept that promise every day. I had promised to stay. To choose him in this life. And I was keeping mine. Some promises are meant to last forever. Not because keeping them is easy. Because they are worth it.